Oh, I know I'm low.
And we should be live. You can start.
We good? All right. Hello, and welcome to another episode of VR Download. In case you are new to the show, each week we meet here in virtual reality using the latest technologies to discuss the next generation of personal computing. Hello, I'm your bespectacled host, Kyle Riesenbeck, filling in for, you're normally seeing Ian Hamilton here, but he's not here. He is at MetaConnect 2024, which is very cool. I had to say the year because, you might assume a different one. Anyway, so I'm joined here by my colleague, David Heaney, who is our very own proprietary Upload Virtual Studios creator. That's where we are here. And we are broadcasting live on YouTube right now. So if you want to have interaction with us, go check out the stream and post comments and questions, and we might actually even answer them. So VR Download is also syndicated to all podcast platforms. And if you like this type of quality programming to continue, we need your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing Upload content. Now, you probably haven't heard that whole spiel because I haven't been here in a while, David. It's been a minute. I see that the maid hasn't been in to clean at all. There's dust on the floor. And when are we going to get some new stuff in here?
Yeah, I wonder when we're going to get the virtual maid. We'll talk later about AI NPCs. Maybe that's what we're going to need. Just a note for this week, I don't have the live chat today. So Kyle, you'll need to handle any live comments. We have a massive show today. We have a lot of things to talk about. I am very tired because I wrote 16 articles yesterday as I was covering, I think for 16 or 18 hours straight, everything to do with MetaConnect and trying to stay on path there. So I may say the wrong words at some point today. You're going to have to bear with me. But we have so many things to talk about. Firstly, we're going to talk about some non-Connect stuff. We're going to talk about HTC's Vive Focus Vision. They announced last week. Everyone's almost forgotten about it because, sorry to any other company than Meta, don't announce a VR thing in September. You're going to get drowned out. We'll then talk about the Godot engine now being available standalone on Quest 3 and Pro. That's a really significant moment to have a full game engine available standalone on a headset. We will then talk about Immersed Visor. So last week I flew over to Texas to try it out, but if you've read UploadVR.com, you'll know that demo did not go particularly well. However, since then, Immersed has been showing short clips of Visor working for the first time, and recently, just today, you'll see on UploadVR.com, they showed the pass-through and hand tracking working, and even showed off the interface there. So we're going to have a discussion about what that might mean for that product's prospects. Then we will move in to everything MetaConnect. We'll talk about Quest 3S, Meta's new headset, that cheaper mixed reality headset that brings the power and capabilities of Quest 3 into a cheaper device. We will then talk about Quest 3, Quest 2, and Quest Pro because Meta has gotten rid of the lower storage Quest 3, cut the 512 gigabyte model down to its $500 price point, and it's discontinuing Quest 2 and Quest Pro. So there's a simplified lineup coming up there, and we'll talk about what that means for next year in mixed reality. We will then talk about the plethora of news related to Horizon OS, Meta's platform, and the new features and apps, YouTube co-watching, Horizon Hyperscape, Gaussian splatting, Amazon Prime Video arriving on Quest with downloads for offline viewing, Quest headsets soon being able to extend Windows 11 laptops by just looking at them, Vision OS style, the new Meta avatars that are launching next week, the bombshell revelation that Quest developers will be able to access the pass-through cameras next year and run their own custom computer vision models. Meta Horizon Worlds getting AI NPCs that you can talk to inside VR. The Meta Horizon Store now accepting 2D Android apps. Meta's Spatial SDK, which lets developers easily build Quest apps without a game engine. And then we will move on to talk about the Ray-Ban glasses and some of the software updates there. And we'll finish by talking about Orion, the big revelation of Meta Connect, Meta showing off this AR glasses prototype with a 70-degree field of view, EMG wristband input device, and wireless compute puck. This time machine, as they call it, the North Star for where they want to eventually get with their products. So this will be a monster show today, but just as a second reminder there, I won't be able to see comments. So Kyle, you'll have to relay interesting
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we are pretty sure that there's going to be lots and lots of comments and questions. So make sure you put them here into the comments in the live stream, and I will keep track. I see some regular customers here. Hello to everyone. Alan Carter, Subcog, Paradise DK, Corporate Zombie, Alan Carter again. Oh, okay. I'm just reading down the list here. Recycled, Biggs, Serious Goo. What else we got here? Looks like everybody is very excited to talk about Orion. Just a few more things that we have to do beforehand to talk about. This is going to be, strap in, folks, because this is going to be a big show. And I'm sure David is going to fill all of our brains with all sorts of fun stuff to talk about. When we do get to the visor stuff, the immersed stuff, Ian has provided me with a note to read to the general public. So when we get there, I will read that. So David, you're exhausted. I know you are. You guys have done a fantastic job. Let's start with this Vive Focus Vision, which was in my Twitter feed. I refuse to call it X for like 10 seconds, and then nobody talked about it. So what's up with that?
Yeah, so firstly, it is entirely possible that I fall asleep live in VR on this stream and you'll get to see it. That'll be greatly entertaining if it does happen. But yeah, Vive Focus Vision, as I said at the start, they made the interesting decision to announce a headset just a week or so before Meta Connect, which pretty much guarantees that you're going to get drowned out, but they've made that decision. They've gone for it. This is a very interesting headset because in some ways it gives enthusiasts exactly what they want, PC VR enthusiasts specifically, but in other ways, it falls short of what modern competitors offer. So it's a refresh of Vive Focus 3, which was only sold to businesses, but this one they're selling to consumers as well, specifically aiming it at that PC VR enthusiast market. And so, as well as adding color pass-through, which is mainly for businesses, for consumers, they're pitching that this thing now has eye tracking and display port for native PC VR. So you can plug this thing in with an adapter that they will sell you to your PC and use it like you would a Reverb G2 or a Valve Index. No USB compression, no wireless network to deal with. It will work as if it is a native PC VR headset. And you'll also be able to have that eye tracking in PC VR. So you can use that for VR chat, driving your avatar's eyes, or you can use it for foveated rendering in supported PC VR titles that support that. So on paper, an interesting headset. It's $1,000, and then the adapter for PC VR is $150, so $1,150. And it does have these 2.5K displays that Focus 3 has had for years that give it, higher resolution than Quest 3. The problem is that this thing still uses Fresnel lenses, and we'll talk later about how Quest 3S uses Fresnel lenses, but this is not a $300 headset. This is a $1,000 headset that's still using Fresnel lenses. And not only that, but HTC's Fresnel lenses here are not even up to the same quality as the kind of Fresnel lenses you see in Quest 3S and Quest 2. So in a parallel universe where this thing was identical to what it is in our universe, except it had pancake lenses, I could see this being HTC's massive revival, right? This thing could be a really important product because it's not that you're going to use this as a standalone headset. Yes, this is a standalone headset, right? It runs standalone. You don't need a PC, but HTC's store has only a fraction of the Quest store content. So that's not really what people are going to mainly use this for. It is, even in business use cases, this thing is being used as a wireless PC headset, right? So they're using it at VR arcades in enterprise, using Vive's own wireless streaming as a PC headset. So the standalone capabilities here are not the pitch, but this could be a really interesting PC headset. The problem is that in this reality, at that price point, there are other options you can consider. And also, just a few months ago, PlayStation VR 2 got PC VR support. So for half the price, you can get an OLED native PC VR headset instead, with the major caveat, of course, that PSVR 2's eye tracking cannot be used on PC. This thing's eye tracking can.
So I have to ask, because it's all about when you put out a headset like this, you have to ask yourself, who is the target audience? So is this people who maybe had an index and are looking for a refresh? I mean, who is the target audience for this specific headset other than enterprise, which you've already kind of outlined?
Well, I think it is important to outline enterprise again, because Focus 3 was an enterprise headset. In many ways, this is just enterprise saying, we like what we have here, but we want color pass-through. We don't want to be able to do mixed reality. And then, the eye tracking makes it useful for certain use cases. It also has some really unique things that are good for enterprise, right? So one of the design focuses of the Focus 3, the predecessor to this, is that it has this rear battery that's swappable. So not only does it have, in the same sense of Quest Pro and Pico 4, a rear battery, but this actually pops out of the back of the strap. And so you can swap it in, and they sell businesses this like multi-charging dock so they can just be ready to go. So this one, the Focus Vision, actually has a 10 to 20 minute small secondary battery in the visor too, which allows hot swapping. So you can actually hot swap the batteries out. Color pass-through is what businesses have been asking for. That is, again, what this is designed for. The HTC now sells to consumers very much so as a secondary consideration. I don't think any part of their design process is really designed for consumers, except here the display port, right? They're hoping that, yes, there are people out there who are, for example, using the Index or maybe even older headsets. The Index, I would say you may want to actually net take over this. I don't think this would be an outright upgrade other than the eye tracking to Index. But say you still have an original Vive or an original Rift or a Rift S, part of this HTC hopes would be compelling. It's just, unless you really care about native DisplayPort, it just doesn't seem to be overall competitive.
Sure, I guess so. So, it's might not be for you. It might not be for you. Okay. Love that they still have the ring on the controllers as well. That's that almost feels ancient now. So, okay, do we have anything further to say then about the Focus Vision?
No, I don't think there's anything necessarily we need to add here, unless there's any comments here, any interesting takes you see in the comments.
No, I mean, everybody is just kind of saying, yeah, okay. Jack B says they did some things very right, a few things very wrong, namely price, Fresnel, and silicon. Yeah, so not a whole lot going on here.
Yeah, so I guess the last thing we'll say here is that back in January, Qualcomm confirmed to us that HTC is working on an XR2 Plus Gen 2 headset. So that's the same chip that's going into Samsung's upcoming headset and the same chip that's in the Immersed Visor. But HTC has not said anything about that headset. And when we asked them about it, when we were discussing Focus Vision with HTC, they basically blanked me. They wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't even confirm that Qualcomm made that announcement with their consent. It was just a no comment of any sort kind of situation there. So reading between the lines, I think HTC probably is working on a much higher end headset, which unfortunately also would mean a higher price. And again, this is just Focus 3 with some specs upgraded, right? It's the same design with some specs. I don't think this is their brand new headset. I don't think this is what their main engineering work is going to right now. We'll see probably next year, maybe at CES in January, what HTC is really working on.
Sure. Yeah. Who knows? So there was one comment here. Let's see here. Super Heavy Metal Demon says rings make controllers easier to find by touch. I will say this, when all of the controllers had rings, I had 3D printed like some hooks, and they did kind of hook nicely onto that. So I see that. There's some value to that. But all in all, I think we've moved on tech-wise in terms of controllers. So the rings are whatever.
Yeah, with Pico 4 Ultra, with Quest 3S, with Quest 3, it is so much nicer to be able to bring your controllers directly together and not worry about, if you're in a fast-paced game, smashing the plastic together. But again, this is just the same old HTC controllers that have been around for years, the same old standalone ones, I should say. And we don't see any changes there. They just feel like cheaper Quest 1 controllers. And yeah, they're not competitive with modern controllers.
No. And anybody who's ever broken a controller, the ringed controller, I mean, you play some heavy, Echo Arena back in the day. I know my kids have gone through about 4 sets of those controllers. That's a real bear. Okay, well, enough of that for Vive. Move on to Godot engine now.
Yeah, so this is a remarkable announcement. I almost didn't believe what I was reading when I first saw it. So if you're not familiar with what Godot is, I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
Maybe I believe Godot, it's Godot, yeah.
Yeah, Godot, right. Okay, however it's pronounced. It's an open source alternative to Unity and Unreal Engine. And over the past year or so, Meta has actually been funding a group of veterans of this engine to upgrade its Quest support and OpenXR support, so it benefits all VR headsets. And building off of that, a Meta engineer, in association with other open source contributors to this, have now ported it to Quest itself. So this now runs, it's on the Meta Horizon Store, the new name for the Quest Store. You can go download it, and it's actually on the headset, and you can do everything you can do in the engine on desktop on your headset without a PC, including compiling. So you can build a game, write the scripts. The obvious issue would be getting 3D assets in here. You can't, do 3D modeling on a Quest, but you could theoretically download them in the browser, pull everything in, build a full-fledged game, like not something that lives inside Rec Room or Horizon Worlds or another platform, an actual binary, an APK, and then distribute it through this. Or you could even build for other platforms, right? You can build for Windows, you can build for Mac or whatever, traditional Android phones. And yeah, this just looks really incredible. So if you, by default, this will run as a floating window in front of you. But if you're building a flat screen game, when you hit play and run, it will pop up a second window that has the game in it. So you still have your engine, you can do live edits. If you're building a VR app, then when you hit play and run, it will launch into that VR experience while you're in it. And then you can still keep the editor window open, as you see here. And then the changes made in the editor will be reflected live in VR while you're in it. So if they move this platform from here to here, you will see this platform move from here to here in VR instantaneously. So this is wild. This is a sort of landmark moment for spatial computing in general. We said when we reviewed Vision Pro that one of the reasons that it's not a spatial computer really is that there's been this ongoing definitional debate for the past decade in technology about what is a computer. Is an iPad Pro a computer, being the main flashpoint of this debate? And one of the biggest points I think here is that a computer is something that you can build an app for it on without needing an external system or another PC or a cloud system. And in many ways, if you can develop on something, then that makes it a computer. And in some ways, this kind of marks Quest 3 becoming a spatial computer in that sense. So obviously, we got to put the caveat that this probably isn't a practical way that people are going to want to develop apps yet, right? The resolution of Quest 3 is still limited. The weight is still obviously a problem. But what many developers have told us that they plan to do with this is develop mainly on PC and then load up their game inside Godot on Quest to tweak things spatially. So get the positioning right, get the scale of things right. If they're building something that requires VR interactions, make sure that feels great in the headset, and then do some of the heavier work on PC. So that could be a really great balance for that. I think that one thing that people aren't taking into account is that smart teenagers who get a Quest 3S this Christmas, we'll talk about Quest 3S later, are going to have a field day with this thing. There are going to be kids who only own a phone or an iPad or something like that, and then get a Quest 3S as a games console. And the same way that a lot of people taught themselves to code as teenagers with their first laptop or their first PC, this could be the way that they teach themselves to build games. And there will be future game developers and designers that start in this, I think, and I think that's going to be a wonderful thing.
Marcellus Wilson in the comments has said, I cannot express how well this worked. I put in a test project from PC and it worked perfectly, and it is so fast. Building is faster than on PC. Now, many of you know this about me. I am the industry's most okayest VR developer. I'm proficient but that's about it. And I'll tell you what, seeing something like this almost makes me want to go in and try to build something. So, interesting fun little thing there.
I would love to see that. That would be a great article or video. You using Godot native on Quest. That would be fun.
Sure. I might do that.
Yeah, so are there any other comments we have about this, or should we move on to talk about Visor?
I mean, I feel like I don't know. Arlen of the Arc Reactor says Meta is just bound and determined to make me like them. This is really impressive and almost surprising. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many people are going to jump onto this because, anytime there's a third standard, people are hesitant to adopt it, but then there will be some diehards.
Oh, you muted yourself.
This is crazy. I mean, this really feels like I did not expect this at all.
Yeah, I didn't expect this either. And I think a lot of people did expect it on Apple Vision Pro, right? You would think that, not from third-party engines, but you'd think that with Apple's tools that they would be able to give an experience like this on Vision Pro, where you can use Reality Kit and Reality Composer, a spatial version of it, alongside Swift UI to build native Vision OS apps in Vision OS. But in many ways, one of the limiting things about Vision OS and Vision Pro is that Apple is very much so bringing over its iPad mindset to platforms and app development, not its Mac. Apple is in the modern era seemingly unwilling to cannibalize its existing product lines. For example, is there a good reason that you can't run a Mac app on Vision OS, or is it just that Apple also wants you to buy a MacBook and a Vision headset? I think in some ways, if Apple sticks to that kind of stubborn mindset that it's had with iPad OS, where it's very much so designed to be like a mobile operating system that doesn't allow for these kind of things, they're going to perhaps have a blind spot where spatial computing, their big pitch for Vision Pro and Vision OS, may be able to be done better on some of these competing platforms. So it's possible we'll see in Vision OS 3, Apple brings something like this, but I think it's deeply disappointing that you cannot build a Vision Pro app inside Vision Pro without a Mac.
Mr. Mycelium wants to know, can you build and publish from the headset? Now, obviously, we know you can build. Can you actually hit publish from here and never have to touch
onto the store? That's a good question. I think it depends whether the web tools would work, the Horizon Store web tools. You may need to use the MetaQuest Developer Hub, Windows or Mac app, but that's a good question. We'll look into that and get back to you as to whether you could just upload it directly from the Quest browser.
I mean, open the browser and hit upload and send your APK off into the metaverse. I don't see why not.
I'm just not sure whether they still have web-based uploading. I know that they have a command line tool for it, and they have uploading in Quest Developer Hub, that app for Windows and Mac. I'm just not sure if they still have the browser-based upload, but they may. Any developers in the comments who know, does Meta still have the web-based APK uploading, or has that been phased out in favor of Developer Hub? Please let us know in the comments if you know.
And Super Heavy Metal Demon wants to know, is Godot XR in browser at all? That's a good question.
No, but I think you can use this to build browser apps, and it may be possible in the future to build WebXR apps with this. And remember that this is open source, right? So all of these things are possible if someone wants to do it. The source code is out there. You can do this if you're that kind of
Marcellus is throwing out an answer. He says, no, it's a native app. You can export. You probably can't upload. And then Corporate Zombie says, it's funny that you will be able to do everything from the headset except initial setup, which requires a smartphone. Well, I mean, it's something. It's closer. I don't know.
That is a good point. Yeah. You do need the phone app to set up a Quest headset.
That's interesting. What if you have a kid that you want to buy, like maybe you have a 12-year-old and you're just like one of those parents that doesn't want their kid to have a phone or a tablet, but you want them to have a headset, then you're going to have to set it up for them. They can't do it on their own without a phone.
Sure, but for anyone under 18, you're supposed to use your phone anyway as the parent. You set up their child account, and then your app on your phone becomes the parental management tool for it, supposedly.
Yeah. I just let my kids do whatever they want. Anyway, okay, so that feels like Godot. I am curious. I want to play, like, when this stuff starts getting published. I will be very curious of the fidelity, the quality, the in-depthness, because when you go into things like Rec Room or even Horizon Worlds, I'm impressed with things that I've seen. And so I think that this quality, this level of editor that they have here, I'm thinking we're going to see some fun stuff. And I also look forward to this evolving over time. I mean, this 5 years from now might be like astounding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to play with this. I wrote about it on the plane back from the Visor event, and then we were then in preparation for Connect. So I haven't even had a few minutes to myself to even check out this sort of thing yet. But I'm probably going to it this weekend, so I'll be able to answer more questions about this once I actually get to try it. But I've heard from developers who have been trying it, and they've only said great things.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out this weekend too, instead of going to soccer games with my kids. All right, so that's fun. Godot. Let's see how that goes in 6 months. I'll be curious. So I know you're queuing up to go into the Visor, and before you do, I want to read something Ian has sent me and has asked me to read today. So picture that I'm Ian right now speaking to you. Ian and I want to thank David for his incredible hard work here to stay balanced and objective, despite the fact that he traveled halfway around the world to put on a headset, which barely worked, after planning the trips months ahead of time. To be clear, David attended an event at a time and place selected by Immersed as part of its plan to debut their work. So, as I said before, this is going to be a fun episode, so strap in, David. How was your trip to Austin, buddy?
Yeah, so as we mentioned in our article on this, and you should definitely go and read that on UploadVR.com, Immersed paid for our flights out there to Austin, Texas. Because of the timing around Connect and how busy I've been with other things, I flew in only for that. Was, I think, in Austin for less time than I was traveling to and back. So I spent more time on each side traveling than actually at the event, with the hopes to see a fully functional Visor. And if you're not familiar with what Visor is, it's this headset from this company called Immersed. It's an upcoming headset, and Immersed right now has an app that's available on pretty much all the headsets, all the standalone headsets, including Quest and Pico and Vive Focus, that allows you to extend your PC's monitor into a giant virtual monitor and add additional monitors. So you can have 5 monitors, even if you just have a laptop that has one physical monitor. And so they have decided to make a headset that is specifically optimized around that use case, something that is as small and light as possible, that just plugs in to your laptop and on the go turns it into this giant multi-monitor setup for you. And so they have been marketing this heavily over the past year. They've been taking pre-orders, they say are refundable deposits. And at this event, they were going to hopefully allay the naysayers, the people who were claiming that this is a scam, because a lot of people in the comments on this show, in the comments on our website, on social media, thought, and some still think, that this is just an outright scam. And so they'd hope to bring over press like us, as well as influencers and other people in the industry, and show, look, this is real. Here they are trying the headset. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to try anything but a very basic skeleton demo of this thing. So I waited for 2 hours outside the demo area. And 2 hours later, we heard the intercom announcement ring out to say the demos would begin now, but they will be hardware only, not software, due to an issue. So this image is me wearing the hardware, not plugged into anything, just seeing what the ergonomics feel like, seeing what it looks like on my head. And that's why I look kind of not particularly amused, given I don't think I'd eaten either. I don't think there was much food provided at this point. And I was kind of sitting there in a non-functional headset, wondering what on earth was going on. So I waited around until the end of the event. And with 15 minutes to go, they managed to get one visor working. And that one visor was just showing a series of images and videos displayed across both panels. If you've been around in this industry since the Oculus development kit days, you'll know this is extended mode. If you're near, you won't even know what this looks like. I mean, this is not showing it's showing a separate image for each eye, but they're not a stereoscopic pair. It's just, imagine the left side of your monitor went into your left eye and the right side went into your right eye. So obviously you just get horrible eye strain unless you open one eye at a time because you're not seeing a matched image. That's what I saw. But when I did have one eye open, I saw that their claims about this thing having 4K micro OLED displays appear to be true. I saw an image that had unmistakable OLED contrast, that had the pixel fill factor you can only get from micro OLED, and appeared to have the pixel density that I'm used to with Apple Vision Pro. So the panels were demonstrated as working. We don't from this demo, I can't say anything about the rest of the software. So in the days since, Immersed has been posting videos on their social media in the past few days showing the headset actually working with their software. And most recently, and you can read about this on UploadVR.com from today, they showed a video of the pass-through through the lens and hand tracking. So you could see a hand tracking outline here. And as he flipped his hand open, a hand-tracked menu locked his hand appeared. You can also see that the laptop screen is mirrored to a virtual screen here, as well as an entirely virtual extra monitor to the left. So some people were claiming, based on what happened in this demo, that the whole thing was a scam, that Immersed simply didn't have any product to show, and these were dud units. According to this video that we're seeing posted in the last 24 hours, it looks like they do have working units available. That said, the question of how stable is this software, when will it be ready to ship, and when will the hardware be ready to mass produce, and can they mass produce that at a cost that means that they don't go out of business? All of those questions are still unanswered, and we're not going to get the answers to those yet. Now, the founder of Immersed previously indicated that he was willing to fly over to Europe to show me this working demo, but he's actually now nearby Meta Connect. And so today he should be meeting with Ian, our normal podcast co-host here, and showing Ian instead. So that's obviously a lot cheaper and easier than him flying over to Europe. So if that all works out, then we should have in the next few days impressions on UploadVR.com of Visor working from Ian. And then hopefully I get to see it at some point in the next few months.
You know, I don't know what the distance is from where you are in the UK over to Austin. Several flights and a lot of time spent, jet lag, you know, time changes. And you went and basically put on a pair of bulky Oakleys. And that was the extent of what they were willing to show you. Now, before you go away from this photo, I just want to point out the humor that I found in this photo, that this is a Meta competitor showing Meta Connect in the background running. And I understand that that's for like, oh, that happened today sort of thing. But come on, really? I mean, that's just, I just found that very humorous. You know, you've said the word scam several times, and I know it's in the articles the article that you've written. I don't know if scam's the right word.
Well, so I'm not calling it a scam.
No. I know.
I'm not calling it. I'm saying
no. We are not.
Call it a scam.
Yes, exactly. We are not. We're just parroting what we've heard from other people to report on it. But I personally, you know, we'll talk about this again when we get to Orion, which I know everybody's kind of anxious to hear about. But you know, there's a reason why something like Orion doesn't go out right away. Hardware wise, they might have figured out, I don't know, 80-90% of it. But man, it's that software stack that runs everything that is so critical. It has to be right before it goes out to the general public. And that's the part that they skimped on, it feels like to me. And that's just, how do you do that? I don't understand how you bring in people from around the industry and say, here, look at our cool broken toy.
Yeah, so there was a very interesting moment in the onstage presentation where the founder said that he was told by some of his manufacturing partners and some hardware experts, this is going to take on the order of 2.5 years. And he said, to them, in his own words, no, I want to do it in 12 months. So I do think in some ways he's trying to rush this and get this thing out much faster than a usual hardware cycle. When you see something like Quest 3 come out, that thing has been in development for years, right? For sometimes 3 or 4 years is the cycle for these advanced hardware products to actually reach the market. And so Meta is already working on Quest 4, even though it's 2 years out, and has been working on Quest 4 for probably over a year at this point, right? And so I do think that there is a certain level of naivety here from a software-only company trying to do this quickly as possible. Their original timeline was to ship the Founders Edition pre-orders immediately after this event, and that's obviously not going to happen given they weren't even able to demo something at the event. And I think another problem people had with this is that this event was the first time we'd even seen the real design of this thing. Up until then, everything on Immersed's website, including the pre-order page, were concept renders that were actually thinner than the real headset that they've shown off. So at the same event that they show this thing even working for the first time, or at least they don't show it working for the first time, they actually reveal the final design. And one thing I think we really should note about that final design is that this Oakley's pitch appears to be in itself marketing, this Oakley's design. So Immersed's own founder on stage admitted, and this is a live stream, right, that's going out to the internet, that the design with these glasses-like stems that you can see in our image here, for example, this is these images I took of the headset. I'll show some more angles to show the kind of thickness. This glasses stem design is only used to draw people in the founder's words. And he says that after 30 or 60 minutes, this isn't comfortable. So they're including in the box, and again, this is his actual word, the actual strap. The word actual, his actual word, which looks far more like a traditional VR headset strap. And this is what people are expected to use for more than 30 or 60 minutes. And so at this point, you see something that starts to, at the start when this is first pitched, it's this pair of Oakley-like sunglasses. And then as we start to see, the real headset, it's clearly something that's still very thin and light, right? This thing is a third of the weight of something like Apple Vision Pro. We have to give them credit for that. It is a remarkable feat of product design and engineering. I'm not taking that away from it. This is a very interesting piece of hardware, but it's obviously now at this point, as you can see in these sort of images, something that is not a pair of sunglasses, but clearly a headset, just a very thin and light one. And then once you start to get to this strap, you see this is a lot more like what we're used to, just with an open periphery design and taking out some of the weight and bulk we've seen before. That said, all of this is going to sound a bit harsh, but that said, I really do like what they're doing here. And I think this is an interesting product that is very cleverly targeted at this specific use case, virtual productivity and screens. A really clever thing they've done, and none of these images show it to be clear, but this thing uses an external battery like Apple Vision Pro. A really clever thing they've done, though, to shave off some weight on the headset itself is to put the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna in the battery. So you don't need a Wi-Fi chip, you don't need a Wi-Fi antenna. All of that weight and bulk gets shifted into the battery itself. And then if you're using this directly with a laptop, you can plug it in to the laptop instead of the battery, and the laptop itself handles the connectivity, the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. That's a very clever piece of engineering that I think we'll probably see in some future headsets. A lot of the design choices here are interesting. The lenses I tried are better than any headset except for Apple Vision Pro and Quest 3 and Quest Pro. So other than Meta and Apple's lenses, these are really, really great. There are just so many open questions, though, of when will this thing ship? And there are people who have a fundamental problem with its business model, right? So this thing costs $500 plus a subscription. And that subscription is either $40 a month for 2 years minimum or $60 a month for 1 year minimum. And so if you're not someone who is a fan of subscription models, this is not for you at all.
Yeah, I hate subscriptions personally. I'm not a fan of having to have a subscription for a piece of hardware. That's no good for me. So, it is interesting. It's a third of the weight of Apple Vision Pro, a third of the weight and 1/50th of the capabilities in its current form.
Resolution-wise, it's actually slightly higher resolution, right? And it does eye tracking. Now you talk about the software. Obviously, it doesn't run Vision OS, but as a piece of hardware, like this isn't missing much from Vision Pro other than the computing power, the eyesight front display, face tracking.
This looks fixed. Is there no IPD adjustment, or is it
Yeah, so
software?
that is one of the ways that they've been able to get this down. So
Mm.
this is made in multiple sizes. It comes in, I think, extra small, small, medium, and large. So you buy this as an individual item for yourself based on your IPD. And so by not having an IPD adjustment mechanism in there, these are fixed lenses indeed. That's another way that they can bring down the weight. It's a similar strategy to what we've seen in Big Screen Beyond, except Big Screen Beyond fixes it to your exact IPD. Immersed claims that their lenses have a wide enough eye box that they only need to make 4 sizes. And so that simplifies manufacturing. I actually think that's also a very clever move, right? I could 100% see this happening with future headsets. You have 4 sizes based on your IPD, because the eye box of pancake lenses is already so good that even when you set your IPD wrong on something like Quest 3, it doesn't really matter anymore. Obviously, I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all. I'm just saying when you look at it, you're not seeing the blur that you would see. For the Fresnel lens headset, for example, you set your IPD slightly wrong and it's a blurry mess, right? With a Quest 3, go into a Quest 3 and scroll the lenses further apart and closer together. You'll notice that your image quality doesn't really change that much. And so as long as it's somewhere near your eye, you could probably get away with, if you had Meta's lenses in this, even 3 sizes. But with these lenses, they're going with 4 sizes. I think that is actually a clever design move. Again, there's a lot of clever engineering going on here. This is a very impressive piece of hardware. It's just about, can they ship it? What state will the software be in? Will this be a profitable business? Those are the big questions.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what Ian has to say about this when he has a chance to try. Well, hopefully he will have a chance to try it. I'd hate for him to travel all the way down there and then not have a different experience than you did, David. That would be unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, are there any audience questions?
A lot of comments. Nothing really significant that we didn't already kind of say ourselves. So yeah, I think we're good on the visor. So are we ready? MetaConnect was yesterday. That was a big
I think
deal.
We're ready to talk about MetaConnect. Yeah, again,
okay.
If anyone has any last minute visor questions, now is the time. If you have any question, now is the time before we move on to MetaConnect.
Yeah, and just as a side note, I personally do not recommend screwing with the FOV. Try to get it as close to your IPD. Don't mess with that. I have older headsets. I've had experiences where I've used a headset for long term with the wrong FOV or the wrong IPD, and it can cause problems. So don't do that. Please don't do that. Little public service announcement there. The more you know. Okay. Right. Well, I mean, we all watched Connect. And what was it? Ought, Zuck, ought, nihil. So it's Zuck or nothing. That's what his shirt said in Latin. Had to look it up. It's a Caesar reference. Very modest person, Mark Zuckerberg, up on a stage in front of all these people watching the stream. So yeah, Ian was out there and, with the hopes and expectations to try out not 1, but 2 new devices. One of those being the Meta Quest 3S. And so once David is ready to start talking about the Meta Quest 3S, I'll let him jump in and take over. And then I have to go find a cable to plug my headset in because I am running out of battery life already. Too much gaming. Go ahead, David, whenever you're ready.
Sure. So Quest 3S is everything we expected it to be. If you watch this show, if you read UploadVR, you already know pretty much everything about this headset. It has been leaked for months. It is, or I should say was at this point, the most leaked headset in this industry's history. We knew pretty much everything about it. And on the eve of its announcement, as you will have probably read on UploadVR.com, a Walmart even put up a display with one of these things in it a day early. So all of the information was out there. I can't think of anything announced at Connect that wasn't already known, other than maybe the fact that it has a flicker sensor. That little dot there is a flicker sensor. Flicker being the rate at which your light flicker, it's 50 hertz in Europe and 60 hertz in North America. That's usually automatically detected by your region anyway, but I guess if you are in some sort of edge case, that could be helpful. So if you haven't been catching our coverage since then, if you're coming in here thinking, hang on, I didn't read all about this, I don't know what it is, there are two ways to look at this, whether you're a pessimist or an optimist. If you're a pessimist, you'll say, this is a Quest 2 with Quest 3's chipset, mixed reality capability, and ringless controllers, an upgraded Quest 2. If you're an optimist, you might say it's a Quest 3, but with Quest 2's lenses and displays. So there's two ways to look at this. Both are true in a sense. This thing has Quest 2's lenses and display, the exact same lens and display with the exact same 3-stage IPD system, those Fresnel lenses. And that means that you're going to get an inferior visual experience to using a Quest 3, right? The graphics are all being rendered the same resolution with the same quality as on a Quest 3, but you're seeing that through these old Fresnel lenses that are in Quest 2 and Quest 3S, and through a single fixed LCD panel. But from a developer perspective, this is a Quest 3. So when you're targeting devices, when you upload a build to the Quest store, there is no separate Quest 3 and Quest 3S. There's just Quest 3 family, because this thing has the same chipset, the same RAM, the same exact pass-through cameras, the same room meshing capability, the same depth API, the same inside-out upper body tracking via these side cameras, and the same controllers. From an applications perspective, this is a Quest 3. So I don't think there's much more to really say about this as a piece of hardware. I guess we can run through some of the different shots here showing this kind of size and form factor of this thing.
If I own a Quest 3, I have zero reason to buy one of these.
Correct. This is a cheaper alternative to Quest 3, designed for people who don't want to pay $500. That's the market here. It's people who the most they want to spend is $300 or $400 for a headset. They do not want to spend $500, and that's more people than you might think. And, in our audience, we're going to get a lot of people, obviously, who are enthusiastic about this, who think $500, I would pay more. I want a $1,000 headset, a $2,000 headset. The reality is that one of the reasons that Quest 2 was the first mainstream VR headset is that it started at $300, and that's what Meta is hoping to build on with Quest 3S. It hopes that Quest 3S does for higher quality VR and mixed reality what Quest 2 did for basic standalone VR. And so just quickly want to cover two interesting accessories here, because one of the things that Meta has done here is to release a breathable facial interface that is kind of like translucent, and it's for fitness. So if you get this thing and you're playing mixed reality supernatural, this could be a lot more breathable. This kind of is the fitness headset they alluded to by putting this thing on. You may not think that's significant, but I guess for people who are using this for fitness, that is. The other thing is, because this thing doesn't have the gold pins underneath, it doesn't support Quest 3's charging dock, but they did make a compact charging dock that charges just the controllers instead, and then has a little extra cable that goes out to go into the side of Quest 3S. Another couple of minor details is that this thing does not have a headphone jack, so you have to use USB-C audio. You do not have a headphone jack for 3.5 millimeter audio, and it has a new button, the action button here, and this button toggles pass-through. So there are some more minor differences, but none of them are going to really be game-changing, right? Yes, it's better to have a button than the old double tap gesture, but I don't think any Quest 3 owner is going to downgrade their headset just for something like that.
I know, and I wasn't going to address this at all, but I know that you and Ian have made a couple tangents on previous shows where you've discussed switching away from hand controllers and all hand all hand input. And I don't want to get into any of that, but does it surprise you at all, David, that they don't have a SKU without controllers available?
No. So that's good to bring up, though, because that was a massive rumor, right? There were, I think Bloomberg's Mark Gurman reported that Meta was still discussing this. You had so many mainstream outlets, including The Verge, disappointingly, report that was going to be the big reduction in this thing to lower the cost. But to be clear, you cannot buy this thing without controllers. It comes with controllers. The reality is that the controllers only add maybe $35 to $50 of cost to Meta to add in this thing, and having them means that you can access the 70 or 80% of the store that requires them. It would just be a really weird move to cut people off from that for the sake of saving $30 or $50. Right now, hand tracking is decent on Quest, but it's not good enough to fully replace controllers. And some of the biggest differentiating factors between Quest and Apple Vision involve controllers, right? When Mark Zuckerberg was reviewing Vision Pro, one of the things he said was so much better about the Quest platform, in his opinion, is these controllers. The fact that you have these precise inputs with haptics, with buttons, with triggers and sticks. And that's what supports some of the top games in the platform, right? If you actually look at what people are doing with Quest, it's Gorilla Tag, it's Beat Saber, it's Rec Room, it's VR Chat. And of those, only VR Chat supports hand tracking. All of these other things, all of these great use cases require these things. I do think it's possible that in future we will see Meta eventually release a headset without controllers. In fact, not just possible, it will eventually happen. But I think they will probably need to have either much, much better hand tracking or to adopt Vision Pro's gaze and pinch style input, because I think hand tracking on its own is probably not good enough to completely drive a headset and make it worth spending hundreds of dollars on yet. But if you combine
Ian feels differently. Ian feels very differently, and I've had in conversations with him internally about that exact thing. And I see people in the comments here saying, "Come on, Kyle." I'm just playing devil's advocate here because honestly, I believe, as I think David just alluded to, there is a future where that becomes a reality, a virtual reality in this case, but not now. Yeah. Like not yet. And that's pretty critical. But you said, why would you release something like this, at a lower price point? You take away $50 off that price, $249, maybe $199 down the road without controllers. The target audience,
it would be $250, right? Again, there's this idea that some people have that it cuts $100.
No, I don't.
100, you cut 50.
Right, but when mass production occurs and the cost comes down and they can get it to a discounted price a year from now,
I don't think that's going. I would just
I don't either.
This thing already is using Quest 2's 4-year-old chips. This is the mass production discount. This is possible to do at this price because it's using Quest 2's display and lenses, which have been in production for 4 years. This thing is riding the coattails of Quest 2's scale, right? Mm-hmm. And then this thing is not going to, magically get to much lower than that anytime soon. I just think you have to have enough value for it, right? You sell a $250 Quest 3S without controllers, hypothetically, and the use case becomes then just the non-interactive things mainly, right? It's using it for these mixed reality giant screens, so you're watching Netflix or Prime Video. The problem is that, doing that through Fresnel lenses on a 500-gram headset is not an amazing experience.
Right.
I think if Meta is going to do that, they're going to focus on a headset that is a lot lighter and has that eye tracking to make it better, because hand tracking, without it being very, very high quality, which would add even more cost, right? The irony would be that if you built a headset that was really good at hand tracking, it would be more expensive than just putting in controllers. So if you did that, you'd get a very different kind of headset. And I think we'll possibly see a different headset line around that eventually.
Sure.
It might not even be called Quest, right? Or it's called Quest Air, but it could be called something else that just runs Horizon OS. The real point, I think, is if they were going to do it, it wouldn't be Quest 3S, it would be Quest 3, right? You would sell a $450 Quest 3 with like controllers. The fact that they didn't do that is it for all the same reasons that this headset doesn't make sense for that.
So, biggest question I have for you about the Quest 3S. We had a conversation about the S and whether it should be capital or lowercase. I was wrong. I was using lowercase. It just made sense. But what does the S mean? Is
That
it
is
simple? Is it
it's a big question.
select? Is it? I know. What?
I don't think it
Why
means
S?
anything. I think
Why S?
that's a great question. I think they probably just copied Xbox Series S, right? It being the
But
cheaper version with Series X.
I hate that. I hate when the names don't have any sensibility to it. All right. So, Ian, I hope when you listen to this later, you'll go, oh, Kyle at least made the case for the hand tracked solution. I am still out on it, and I think it's still a few years out. And someday Ian and I will sit down and record a very lengthy debate. Heated. I'm sure it will be. That's what I said. Daniel Leeper here says S for simple. Maxwell Classified says S stands for super cheap. Onakazi, making it easy. It's simply a symbol denoting a different product SKU. Randomly chosen from a Scrabble bag, we're going to use the S. They could have pulled a Q, they could have pulled an M, but no, S. There it is.
They probably did a market research study, right, and saw that other letters made it too obvious that it was a downgraded version, right? Quest 3E sounds too low end. Quest 3A.
Well, 3E would have been a cool logo though. They could have done the 3 style. Oh, missed opportunity. That's an Apple thing anyway.
I think probably if Meta could do this all over again, and if it was able to release these headsets alongside each other, as reportedly they will do with Quest 4, right? They'll have the two models together, not a year staggered. Reportedly, they'd probably do it the other way around, right? They'd probably call this Quest 3 or the other one Quest 3 Plus. Who knows? I don't think names matter that much. People get very, very focused on names. The reality is here, as we'll talk about soon, the lineup is quite simple now, and it's obvious which is which. It's very hard to mistake them, as I think will be our next topic here if we're ready for it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so Quest 3's 128 gigabyte model is being discontinued. It's on a fire sale of $430, and it's being replaced by the sole remaining Quest 3 model, the 512 gig. So that means that Meta's headset lineup is really simple now. There are 3 models. The 128 gigabyte Quest 3S for $300, the 256 gigabyte Quest 3S for $400, and the 512 Quest 3 proper for $500. So your first $100 jump gets you double the storage. Then your next $100 jump gets you quadruple the storage from where you started, and pancake lenses and dual displays and precise IPD, all of the advantages of Quest 3. So I think there's definitely, I would find it surprising if many people go for the middle option, right? If you're going to spend $400 on the 256 Quest 3S, why not just jump all the way up to the Quest 3 at that point? I think they're either going to sell $300 base Quest 3Ss or $500 Quest 3s. The other thing to say about Quest 3 is that they have released a new open peripheral facial interface. And I guess before we talk about that, we'll just quickly bring up what they're doing with their other headsets. So Quest 2 and Quest Pro, the end of an era here, are being discontinued either at the end of the year or when stock runs out, whichever comes first. So if they run out of stock, they're gone. If it gets to the midnight on December 31st, they're gone. That means that Meta will no longer be selling a headset with eye tracking or face tracking or a rear battery or open periphery. And it also means that Quest 2 is finally coming to an end. So we'll just quickly say a little thing about each of these headsets. This was the first mainstream VR headset. It changed the entire industry. People always asked when will VR go mainstream. There's no moment, but it started with this thing. Before Quest 2, this was a niche industry, and with Quest 2, this industry started on the journey. I'm not saying it completed the journey, but it started on the journey to mainstream, and so it's significant to see this finally come off the market. Quest Pro, on the other hand, was an innovative failure. It had advanced features and a lot of technology packed in, but it had some, critical flaws. It's outdated resolution, it's outdated chipset, it's laughable pass through, and it wasn't able to succeed on the market. Within 4 months, they had to cut the thing from 1,500 to 1,000, and now it's finally going to be gone. And the reason I wanted to bring up Quest Pro first is just to finish covering this section before we discuss it a little bit. Because Meta executives are such a huge fan of the open periphery of this, the fact you can see out the sides, they have built this $40 open periphery facial interface for Quest 3. So it still sits on your face, but you can see out to the sides of the headset, so that you can see in your periphery. So if you're using your Quest 3 for mostly mixed reality, or even for a lot of mixed reality, or if you're a developer, this is a really interesting facial interface. It looks so weird, but I'm really interested to try it and see how it feels.
So the other value here is using it in something like this studio, the Upload Virtual Studios. I personally have a Bobo VR M2, M3, I can't remember which one it is, but I don't have any face. Nothing's touching my face right now. I have prescription lenses for my Quest 3, and I have this completely open, like my Quest Pro, which is over here with a very healthy layer of dust on top of it that I should probably clean off and keep it for posterity. This actually amuses me because this is probably the smartest and cleverest thing that I have seen from a peripheral standpoint for any of these headsets. It makes so much sense. I actually almost feel like I want to try this like I need to get this headset on my head so I could try it with this just to see if it actually does what it's supposed to. I'm imagining that there are going to be third-party solutions that offer the setup that I have here. It's really nice. Now, these headsets are dead. The previous picture, the Quest 2, and these guys are the way of the dodo. Now I wonder, because I've been to software companies, big software companies, and they have small grave sites where they actually put to rest different pieces of software that have been sunsetted or whatever. Do you think Meta has a grave site for all of their products, like the Facebook phone and all the just Oculus in general, the word Oculus? Do you think they have something like that on campus? Does anybody know? If you know, let me know.
I'm sure they do. There's a long list of Oculus and Meta headsets now, right? From the original Rift to the Oculus Go to the original Oculus Quest to the Rift S to the Quest 2, and after this, obviously, Quest Pro, they're now off the market. They have really, over the past 10 years, done a lot of experimentation in public, as in a lot of people who thought they were buying a consumer product really ended up buying a beta test. And you could argue that kind of pretty much everything up until the Quest 2 was in some ways a beta test, and the Quest 2 was where they really had the product that they really wanted to ship the whole time. And then even you could argue that even just now, with Quest 3 and Quest 3S, do they have the baseline capabilities that they consider to be fundamental, right? Quest 2 lacking mixed reality, color mixed reality, where, this idea of these baseline capabilities of having head tracking, hand tracking, controller tracking, mixed reality, room meshing, and inside out upper body tracking as these base capabilities. But yeah, RIP to Quest 2 and Quest Pro.
Onakazi, to answer your question, Onakazi, the reason DK1 and DK2 are not on that image is simply because it wasn't Meta. It wasn't even Facebook yet. DK1, DK2 came out still under Oculus,
right?
That's true too. That is true. Good point.
Yeah, those images are just the headsets that released as products.
The Rift
was the first product other than the Samsung Gear VR, but technically the hardware there was Samsung. This is the headsets that were. This isn't even our image, by the way. This is just a random image Meta put out a few years ago. I just thought it would be cool to have a couple of headsets. This isn't supposed to be comprehensive anyway. Yeah, but just coming back to this, I'm really interested to try this thing because, yes, as you say, people already do open periphery on their Quest 3 by putting the weight onto their forehead, but a lot of people actually don't find that comfortable and find it just hurts their forehead. I think that's probably just going to come down to face shape and personal preference. But if you were someone who doesn't find a Halo strap comfortable, but you do want open periphery, this is an option for that. And I wonder how many Quest 3s within Meta are going to have this thing from now on, right? I mean, developers are going to be all over this thing. It's just the idea that you can just, without adding a lot of bulk for $40, just add this on. I think you'll probably see a lot of...
I'm looking here at this piece right here, and I wondered about how pliable this thing would be and whether or not it would bend. Different people have different facial structure, so this bar right here, it looks like it's holding it out. I wonder how, this could actually hurt if it's not designed correctly.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to try this in person to really
Oh
see
yeah,
for
there you
sure.
go.
Yeah, you can see the bar on here.
And there's one up there as well. Yeah, this might actually be annoying for some people with different facial structures.
So Meta does have a history of releasing accessories that are not the most, what's the word here? Accessories that snap and break, right? Think of the Quest 2's Elite Strap that they had to replace the material on over time. Hopefully, they're not going to make the same mistake twice. I haven't heard of any Quest 3 Elite Straps being taken out yet, but we'll have to see. It's an interesting accessory nonetheless.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll have to see. Yeah, I was just recently at a Target and I saw the Quest 2 Deluxe strap on clearance, like a dozen of them on clearance. So, yeah, those deluxe straps, go check out your local Target if you are looking for one. I don't know why you would, but they're there.
Yeah, they until they discontinue the Quest 2 and Quest Pro, and Meta has said that they are going to be fire sealing off a lot of the accessories. They've been doing that for months, though, right? I think the accessories are now discounted by like 80% versus what they used to be. Obviously, they're always very heavily marked up. You're talking about some pieces of plastic here. It's a typical strategy when you sell subsidized hardware, whether it be a Meta or console, to do highly marked up accessories, or if you're Apple, you do highly marked up products and highly marked up accessories. But I don't think any other companies really get away with that very easily.
So Richard Meller here in the question in the comments, YouTube, he's saying, do you think Meta regret not going with 12 gigabytes of RAM? How much? I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, I do think they will regret that over time. I think I don't think they'll regret going with 8 gigs in Quest 3S, but I do think they probably wish they had it in Quest 3. Obviously, that would mean you would have to get that off away from developers from the start to allow a compatibility between 3 and 3S to be 100% as it is right now. But when you look at the Horizon OS multitasking that they've been building in there, I just wonder how constrained that is going to be over time based on the RAM, right? Like Pico 4 Ultra has 12 gigs, Apple Vision Pro has 16 gigs. To be fair, Quest 3 does well with its 8 gigs. It does seem to have pretty good memory management, but at the end of the day, you can't. Memory management isn't magic, and at the end of the day, it's 8 gigabytes, and that's what it's going to be for the next 2 years. We don't expect a Quest 4 until Meta Connects 2026, 2 years from now. So we'll have to see how this thing holds up over time.
Yep, absolutely. That's what we're going to have to do.
The last thing we should mention, because we haven't, before we move on to talking about software of Meta Connect, this is technically a software announcement, but Batman comes free with every Quest 3S and Quest 3 purchase until May. So I think this game is either $40 or $50. I can't remember which, but it's coming free with all Quest 3S purchases, and they're going to market the hell out of that, right? And they even have on the Quest 3S package the little Batman logo. So that's very much so the tie-in game here. The tie-in game for Quest 3 on its launch season was Asgard's Wrath 2. Asgard's Wrath 2 is a bigger game from a scope perspective, but when it comes to recognition and kind of cultural relevance, Batman Arkham Shadow is obviously of far greater significance.
Yeah, remember when, I guess they're going DC now. Remember when that big Marvel game did that come out? Oh,
that was for the Oculus Rift back in the...
Is that what that was? Anyway, right, it's hard to keep track of all this stuff. A decade's worth of covering this, and it's a blur. It's a blur.
So do we have any comments or questions that we want to read out about the hardware of Meta Connect, the headset hardware, not glasses yet, before we move on to software? So if you have any questions or comments about Quest 3S, Quest 3, or I guess Quest 2 or Quest Pro that you want to read out, Kyle has the comments. As a reminder for anyone that's joined in, I don't have the comments today for esoteric technical reasons I won't get into, but Kyle does have them on his tablet. Technically, I could actually just stand up and go and read them on Kyle's tablet.
But
tablets are fully networked.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why I bothered to do that and increasing the complexity of this app by, significant amounts, but I can actually see everything he's doing on his tablet.
Because this isn't basic. You can see everything I'm doing? I better cover this side of the screen then. Oh boy. Sitting over here watching
window open there, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm watching Family Feud while we're talking. No, it doesn't look like there's anything significant here. I think everybody kind of like our audience is pretty smart, and they know, a lot of this stuff fairly basic. It reads itself. You've already read all of the articles on UploadVR.com that David has put out explaining all of the details about all of these headsets. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that our comments here are, a couple people talking about LLM AI and
I guess there's one last thing we should say, in that there's actually one thing that Quest 3S does better than Quest 3. Controversial. Okay, so there's one thing that it does better, and that is hand tracking in low light. These things on the side are IR illuminators, and so in low light, they will turn on and make your hand tracking work better than it does on your Quest 3. But from what I've heard from people who tried this hands-on, we're talking about a very, very minor difference here, because Quest 3's tracking cameras are already tuned for low light, and hand tracking already works really quite well in low light until it gets to complete darkness. But I guess if you're in complete darkness, Quest 3S is going to be a better option, but I don't know how many people are playing in complete darkness.
I mean, doesn't everybody sit in the total dark with a giant IR LED floodlight in their room? Am I the only one? I don't know. Let's see here. Ben Goodson has a very good question about the Quest 3S, and he's probably sitting in front of his computer laughing that I'm going to read this. Does it blend, David, do you think?
It's a very good question. We don't know the materials. I imagine it's the cheapest plastic they can find. No, I have no idea. Get out of our comments.
I love it. No. Keep it coming. It gives me fuel, gives me fire, gives me all that I desire. So it is weird, though, to think that the sensors on the front of this thing might actually be better than the Quest 3.
Yeah, so I guess we should probably talk about the minor difference there, because a lot of people misunderstand what the middle of the Quest 3 proper is. Some people think that it's a depth sensor, and technically it is the Quest 3 proper, but it's not really. It's a depth projector. So all it does is project this like pattern of infrared dots. And the only time the Quest 3 even uses that is when you're doing your room mesh setup. So your mixed reality setup where it gets a mesh of your room. And it just helps if you have like very plain Spartan features that don't look like depth to the computer vision software, because most of the depth generated by Quest 3 is done through software by just comparing the two black and white tracking cameras on the front, comparing their view and putting it through a computer vision algorithm. The idea that Quest 3 uses its depth sensor for pass-through or even for occlusion is a complete myth. It does not use it for that. It just uses it for room setup. So the Meta says that on Quest 3S, because it doesn't have a depth projector, it doesn't project a pattern of dots, the room setup may be slightly less accurate. So the mesh that it makes of your room may be slightly less accurate in some cases, but otherwise you won't notice the difference there at all. It turned out that computer vision got so good in recent years that it's the cheapest hardware depth solutions, like a depth projector, became almost irrelevant, which is a very funny scenario given how much drama there was about the Quest Pro not having its depth sensor. The real problem with Quest Pro was that its chipset wasn't powerful enough to run these computer vision models that could do the depth. The magic in Quest 3 that allows it to do room meshing, which is the same magic in Quest 3S, is the chipset, which has an NPU powerful enough to run these computer vision algorithms. It's not the hardware. So when it comes to Quest 3S, just to be crystal clear, it does not have an IR pattern projector, but it does have IR floodlights on the side. They are, when I say floodlights, they are literally just IR lights, infrared lights that illuminate your environment. So if you're in the dark doing your room mesh setup, it can see your room a bit better, and it can see your hands a bit better. That is all these are. They are just lights.
Hey, Jorgensen here in the comments is saying, come on, David, you're a technical guy. It is a structured light depth sensor.
Yeah. Technically, so some people would even argue that you're not supposed to use that term unless it's a proper ITOF sensor. But let's not get in. I'm explaining. I understand that you're saying yes on technicality, but we're just trying to dumb it down to what it really is. It projects a pattern of IR dots, and so if you're at a wall that's curved like this, right? Based on how those dots land relative to each other, if it was a plain white wall, your computer vision system without that might think that it's just a flat wall, and it just allows it to see, oh, well, that dot's landed there and that dot's landed there. Therefore, there is a little bit of a depth disparity there. But you can
the resolution on it. The resolution on it isn't great. The dot, throw isn't really that great.
No, it isn't.
Better. Other headsets have much better throw of much finer, detailed dot.
What some other headsets like Pico 4 Ultra and Vision Pro have is actual depth sensors. And that may be controversial to say, but as in Vision Pro, for example, has a LiDAR where it's actually sending out light and then measuring the time it takes to come back. And based on that time, you can do an actual literal depth measurement in hardware without computer vision software. So Vision Pro is a real LiDAR. It's one of the reasons that Vision Pro does a continuous room mesh. It doesn't have to do a room mesh scan only at setup. The reason that Quest does that is because it's quite computationally heavy. So you don't want to have that constantly running in the background of your app. Whereas Vision Pro is just getting a hardware level depth sense of the environment around you. So these subtle differences that matter. The point we're trying to underscore here is there is nothing significant lost by this thing not having a depth projector, Quest 3S.
Right.
The vast majority of all of this depth sensing happens in software via the black and white tracking cameras.
And if you're concerned that you're going to miss out on that specific, IR blasters coming out of the front of it, like I said, I just went to Amazon and bought an IR floodlight and just
so that's what this does have.
Right.
These are just IR floodlights that
but but you can use with my Quest 3 or my Quest Pro or whatever. I just constantly have IR flooding my room. I hope that's not a problem long term, but
So if you have a Quest 3, the proper Quest 3, and you're concerned that this thing has the floodlights, then you can just get your own floodlight and put it inside of the room, right? It's just get an IR
it works
lamp.
I've tried it. Works in pitch black. Works
it does,
in absolute and it makes the pass through look really cool.
So that's So that's the only kind of subtle differences we want to talk about. We'll now move on to talk about the software of Meta.
Oh
Connect.
Here we go.
So there's a lot to talk about here, but each topic we're not going to go super deep on because a lot of them are self-explanatory. So let's start with YouTube co-watching. From next week, there will be a beta where in Horizon Home, Quest's home environment, you can co-watch YouTube. You see this here with the new Meta avatars we'll talk about soon, but this has actually been teased for 2 years now. It was actually announced at Meta Connect 2022 as coming soon. Finally, they're actually launching it. So you'll be able to have a YouTube window open in Horizon Home, and your friend who's there as part of your Meta party will see it synchronized to the same position in the video, right? It's the classic co-watching scenario. This could be a really good way to hang out.
Just two people then? Is it only two people?
I think you can have up to 4, 5, or 6 people, maybe up to 4 at most. I don't think it's just 2. It should. We'll double check that when it comes out next week. We'll test this obviously and see, but it should work for up to 4 people at least.
Because this feels like something that would be really nice to watch VR download with a group of friends together. Hint, hint. Send screenshots. We want to see that next week. People watching.
Please do. That would be great actually to see you watching this in VR synchronized. Obviously, you can already do this in big screen. Let's be clear. This is not something that doesn't exist already in VR. In VR chat, people also do this. And there are plenty of VR apps that have YouTube co-watching. The difference here is that this is just going to be built in to Horizon Home. You don't need to install an app. You go into your VR home environment, you click invite on a friend, they pop up and you play the YouTube video and it works.
All right, so call to action to our audience. If you are watching any of our shows, the VR Games Cast, the VR download together in VR with a group of people on a YouTube screen, send us screenshots. Send it to us via Twitter or whatever, and then we will show those screenshots here on our next live show when we get them. So call to action to you, our wonderful audience. Send us those screenshots. We want to see your watch parties.
Yeah, I think for some people that want to hang out remotely, this is going to be really interesting, right? The original pitch of Oculus Go back in the day. Oh, that's the wrong casted image. The original pitch of Oculus Go back in the days was this co-watching thing that really didn't wasn't delivered in the software in any real effective way. And now finally it's starting to come there. It's also one of the main pitches of Vision OS. Vision OS has a lot of this stuff built into the OS layer itself. So you can basically screen share a browser window and do this already with your spatial personas there. We'll next talk about Horizon Hyperscape. So this is a demo that is available on the Meta Horizon store for Quest 3 and also Quest 3S, because again, everything that runs on Quest 3 also runs on Quest 3S, that allows you to try out photorealistic environments. These seem to be very high quality Gaussian splats, the same kind that runs standalone on Quest on Gracia, but this appears to use cloud streaming, and it's only available in the United States, and that's likely because the servers for cloud streaming for this are only available in the United States. UploadVR's Don Hopper did try this out because he is based in the US, and he said that this looks incredible. It really does look like photorealistic environments. I don't seem to be able to bring up any shots of this for some reason, but you can go to uploadvr.com and you'll find Don Hopper's video of trying this out embedded into our article on it.
So I have personally been playing around with 3D scanning of different environments and whatnot. And when we moved a few years back from the great state of Washington back to the great state of Ohio, I took the app was called Polycam, and I took it with my Apple iPhone 15 Pro, and I scanned the whole damn house before we left. It's okay, but I've wondered how long before I'm able to take that Polycam scan and check it out inside of a VR headset. Now, it feels to me like this is them trying to make that a reality. So my question is, can I upload my own stuff? What formats are compatible? Where, what is does Meta have a tool for me to do a proper scan that I can then view in Hyperscape? So we've got this great idea, but I feel like there's some execution that's still missing and some questions that need to be answered.
Yes, you're absolutely right. This is a demo for now. Meta claims that all of these scans, the 6 scans available in this demo, are done by a smartphone plus extensive cloud processing afterwards. But you're currently not able to do this yourself. This is something that Mark Zuckerberg said at Connect you will be able to do eventually. It sounds like this will be Meta's branding and an app for that. Eventually, they'll probably have a Hyperscape app that you can use to scan your own environments, then go and view them in your headset. It's obviously a very exciting potential avenue. That ability to, as you said, you're moving home, scan the old home. You're on a holiday, a destination. You want to scan something. You have like your kid's birthday party set up, and you want to remember it forever. All of these things. This is truly volumetric media here we're talking about. If you haven't tried something like this, it's actually mind-blowing. I can't try this because it's in the US, but I've tried similar things. It's mind-blowing to walk around a photorealistic volumetric scene in VR. This is not a 3D photo. Like, this is a real fixed off scene. And when you combine that with the ability to capture it, this is going to be one of the significant uses of mixed reality and VR headsets, whatever you want to call them, over time. This ability to capture moments, capture scenes as they are, and then go back in them. And obviously that's one of the consumer use case. In enterprise, the ability to remotely inspect a site based on a scan of it is obviously a massive potential. If you're setting up something, that's a real game changer. The idea that for things like architecture and engineering projects, and even for real estate, you can do eventually a quick 10-minute phone scan plus a 30-minute cloud processing and jump in as an avatar to someone on the other side of the planet and walk them through it. This is going to be a fundamental use case of this technology going forward.
Oh yeah, no, I could see plenty of applications. I mean, I could even see it as being a way to take scans of real life places and put them into games and experiences. I mean, there's all sorts of potential here. Lots of fun.
Yeah, you can imagine eventually Horizon Worlds and platforms like that, supporting scans as the environment. So then you can add on interactive objects, and as we'll talk about later, AI NPCs and other kind of interesting interactivity. Yeah, it's a very, very exciting avenue. If you haven't tried this technology out at all, I would recommend Gracia on the Quest store. It runs completely standalone on the headset, so it is a little bit early. It's a little bit rough around the edges, but you kind of get an initial impression. If you want to just see photorealistic volumetric VR in general, and you have a PC VR setup, Google's app, which I believe is called Welcome to Light Fields, is available on Steam, and you can use that with any PC VR setup as long as your PC is powerful enough. And yeah, the use cases here, as you say, are just endless over time.
So Don Hopper, VR gamer dude, in the house, in the chat here, part of our team. So it looks like he's been addressing and answering some of the questions here. Very good, thank you, Don. And let's see here. So Clayman says it would be great to scan your room and then go to somewhere like IKEA and plug in furniture and know it will all fit. IKEA does have an AR app. I've tried it and actually bought a couch as a result. So there are options like that, and it's just a matter of time before these things evolve to be all part of this seamless, capabilities of all these headsets. Would be very cool.
Yeah, I mean, eventually we talk about phone scans, but what I also think is going to happen here is that headset scans are going to be a thing, right? Like with a headset, you actually have, in some ways, more rich sensor data because you have absolute positional tracking. You have, two cameras at minimum, so you have a stereo view that could obviously be used for a higher quality output potentially. And eventually, as we speculated on this show, you may be able to do on-device processing. Eventually, we're talking 5+ years. And if you can do that, that enables something rather magical, where today you can invite someone to your virtual home and they'll pop up there. Or you can invite someone to join you in pass-through. But you see your real room and they see their real room. You don't see each other's rooms. If you could do a rapid photorealistic scan and process in real time and continuously update it in real time, again, 5+ years out, you could invite someone over to your home and they would appear as an avatar and they would see your home around you, right? The room that you're in. And that would be this kind of teleportation experience that Mark Zuckerberg and other executives at Meta have been promising is the eventual solution here. You could truly teleport into someone else's room.
I've actually done that. I had somebody tell me to log into a prototype of an app, and I was transported into their room, and they were there in their room where it was lined up 1-to-1, and then I was also in the room. So yes, we're very close to being able to do a real life version of that. My only challenge is that what happens if your house is smaller than theirs and you go walking with them, forgetting, next thing you know, boom, right into a wall when you're not paying attention.
Yeah, that's actually a really important consideration. There's been some research done around this. And to be clear, what you were talking about is a pre-scan. And I'm saying eventually it'll be able to be in real time. So you don't even have to pre-scan. You just turn on the headset, look around, and then they're there. But yeah, this consideration of how do you solve for the fact that you're in a different physical space, there's been a lot of research done into this, and there are some very wacky solutions where you actually merge half of your room and half of the other person's room, and for them finds like an overlap of floor space and open areas where you can walk around each other's rooms and kind of have this like middle dividing line between yours and theirs, and you can put like a weird portal effect or like a Star Trek force field style thing in between. This is going to be wild when it does arrive, and there's going to be a lot of clever design and solutions to these problems. Absolutely.
Ben Goodson has made several comments here in the chat, and I want to point out because he's making a good point. The Quest 3 barely can handle getting a cube to stay static in a room. You move around, you sixth off positioning, and it's just not staying exactly where it's supposed to.
I would strongly disagree with that.
Well, it's all about, and honestly, I'm going to be really honest with you folks. It's all about lighting. get better lighting in your house, get better lighting in your rooms. Most houses, most rooms, unless you're in a big fluorescent overheads flickering away, you're not going to have enough light in most houses. And I think that that's kind of a miss. And I think that's partially why the Quest 3S has these IR blasters on the front, which is what I'm going to keep calling them. I think that's critical. I think we need more light. If you back in the day, you go do like HoloLens demos at Microsoft and Building 95 in Redmond, Washington, every single one of those rooms is so flooded with light. Why? Because their sensors require it. And so do these headsets. These headsets need light to work. The more light, the better it will work. The better it's just like taking a picture. More light, better picture. I mean, it's that simple. So
the only thing I disagree on is the framing there. I don't think it's that you need good light. I think it's just they don't work well in bad lighting, right? If you're in very low light, sure, you're gonna have tracking problems. But I mean, I don't know what commenter that was, but I find that that's not true at all with my Quest 3. One of the things I think is great about the mixed reality, and I criticize a lot of the mixed reality on Quest 3, but one thing that's great is that on my headset in any room I've ever tried it in, the tracking is rock solid. So you put a virtual cube on the floor and it does stay exactly rock solid on the floor. And that's something that I didn't get in previous platforms. And it's one of my favorite things about Quest 3. So I'm very perplexed if someone's saying that that's not working
David,
for them.
I'm not perplexed at all. The reason it works so well for you is you don't have to worry about lighting because you're so damn bright. See, that's what it is. You just emit everything that's needed. All right, that's my only joke. You can continue.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think that is a solved problem, right? I haven't seen the comments. I don't have the comment in front of me.
I'll give you 85 to 90%. I agree with you. There are times where I'm disappointed. There are times.
I've tested this a lot, but yeah, I've tested a lot of headsets and I don't know. And maybe it is just some sort of issue with lighting or something in that person's room. Are we ready to talk about the next software feature?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So this is being shamelessly copied from Vision OS. Let's just start by saying that. But this announcement is that soon Quest headsets will be able to extend Windows 11 laptops by just looking at them. So just like with Vision OS and MacBooks today, you will look at your laptop, you will see a little floating virtual icon that says extend or whatever it says. You'll click that icon and boom, your laptop screen turns off. You get a virtual version of the display, and crucially, you can build out external virtual monitors on the sides. That's something you cannot do on Vision OS, to be clear, that last part. But obviously, a lot of you will be about to say, hang on, I can do that today with my Quest headset. I can use Horizon Workrooms. I can use Immersed. I can use Virtual Desktop. I can use Big Screen. The difference here is that you won't need to install any software at all or launch an app. You will literally just look at the Windows 11 laptop. The first time you do it, you'll be asked on the laptop, are you sure, for obvious security reasons. But once you click, don't remind me again or approve login every time or whatever, that headset will be paired to your PC and kaboom, you just put on the headset, look at the laptop, click, and you're done. So significant friction reduction here. If this does pan out as they're claiming it does, this is obviously happening as part of a partnership between Meta and Microsoft. Meta thanked Microsoft for enabling this. This is coming later this year. And this is part of Meta's ongoing partnership with Microsoft that is making this possible. So yeah, this is interesting. I've never liked the sort of awkward, clunky setup of having to have a streamer app, be it Virtual Desktop or Immersed or Meta's, and then separately update it and launch an app. The thing that I've heard from some developers, though, of those alternatives is that they hope that Microsoft makes this available to them too, not just Meta's core software. It would be a shame if this is not an open API that's usable, but knowing the state of the modern tech industry, I imagine it probably will be a closed API.
You mentioned Virtual Desktop. Guy Godin, who is the developer of that wonderful experience, he says that Virtual Desktop is also only one click. So did they steal it from Apple or did they steal it from Guy?
Well, you still have to install the Virtual Desktop streamer on the thing. You have to launch the Virtual Desktop app.
So you're telling me there's nothing here? There's nothing that needs to be installed on the computer to help this happen?
Correct. That's the whole point of this. The whole point is that it connects to the built-in remote desktop feature of Windows 11. So you do not have to install a separate app on the laptop. Now, at the end of the day, to some people, you may think, who cares? I don't care that I have to install the virtual desktop streamer. And realistically, I will probably still be using virtual desktop myself. I like its virtual environment. I like a lot of its features. But if you talk about just a pure friction standpoint of going from having a headset on your head to being in there, it can be a pretty big deal. And, there's no app to update. There's no streamer to install. There's nothing. It's just, that's it. You just connect, you just look at your laptop, and it's how it works with Vision OS. Now, the one thing that Vision OS does do magically in this area, which I don't think they're doing here, or at least they haven't said, is creates an automatic magic Wi-Fi direct connection. So if I'm on a plane that doesn't have Wi-Fi, I can still use Mac Virtual Display. I just put on my Apple Vision Pro, look at my MacBook, I see the little icon above it, I pinch it, and boom. In less than a second, usually, it creates a Wi-Fi direct connection between the headset and the laptop, starts the session, and brings up the virtual display positioned directly above the laptop as tracked. It's tracking the laptop itself as a 3D object. So I don't think Meta and Microsoft are going to do that. I hope they do.
Well, I think Guy, I don't think you have to worry too much because you've already got your tendrils into the industry, and most folks already have your app. So is this too little, too late? Maybe.
So Virtual Desktop is an incredible app, and I love it. But it's $20, and it's something you download from an app store. It's a dramatically different proposition to a built-in feature of both operating systems. This is going to be a built-in feature of Horizon OS and Windows 11 that automatically pairs together. I don't think it's comparable to a $20 third-party app on the store, if that's all you want to use this for. And again, Virtual Desktop has a swathe of other features that I would want to use as a power user. I think we're going to have to separate, when we're talking about this, what do power users want, like myself and a lot of people watching, and what does someone who just wants to try this out for a little bit on their Quest 3S want? Well,
I guess time will tell on the results of that. So, cool beans. I like that.
Yeah, so very interesting to see the results of this Meta and Microsoft partnership. The next thing we're going to talk about is the Amazon Prime Video app. So there is a new Amazon Prime Video app on Quest. It is a 2D panel app, and it supports the feature that we have been begging for a streaming service to support on Quest, downloads. So you can download movies and TV shows from Amazon Prime, or ones that you purchase, as in from your subscription, or ones that you purchase or rent onto your headset, and then use your headset on a plane, in a hotel room, anywhere, as a portable personal cinema. So when I was flying to try Visor, I found the Apple Vision Pro invaluable. I don't know how I would go back to transatlantic flights without this capability through Vision Pro. And sure, Quest 3 and Quest 3S doesn't have the same resolution. It doesn't have OLED. But, this is still the same basic concept. This is still going to be a lot better than staring at either a little phone screen or those awful little dim LCDs that are in the back of airplane seats. And also, it's private, right? Nobody sees what you're watching. When there's that nude scene in the movie you didn't expect to happen, or maybe you did expect, I don't know what you're watching. You don't have to worry that the person beside you just starts staring at your screen and saying, what on earth are you watching?
Honestly, I watched, the entire MetaConnect announcement, and this right here was my favorite thing. I know it's ridiculous, but I'm just so cynical now in the industry that these are the types of features. Downloads have been critical for people like me. You're sitting somewhere and you're like, I'm traveling, and the Wi-Fi is like crawling speeds. Like, I've had GSM phones download video faster than this, and now I can download an entire season of The Boys, watch it on my headset while I'm flying. That just, I think every streaming service should offer this. Every streaming service. I know Netflix does. Wait, does Netflix do it on headset?
No, Netflix doesn't offer it. And Netflix is available through the browser on both Quest and Vision. but it does
So
not
no
have an
downloads
app.
then. Yeah.
No downloads. Yeah.
What's the resolution on this? Somebody's asking in the chat here. What's
So
the resolution for the playback?
yeah, this has 1080p playback, just like
Cool.
Netflix does in the Quest browser now. You don't get 4K, but at least in my testing, 4K wasn't working for me. But it does seem to be 1080p. But the Quest 3 and 3S don't have enough pixels for 4K anyway, so you wouldn't really be getting any advantage unless you make the virtual monitor enormous. So I don't think that really matters here. One thing that's missing, you don't get 3D movies here, but on Vision Pro, that's done through other services anyway. Disney Plus. So this is the only streaming service that has downloads on Quest officially. They don't have it. Disney Plus is one of the best apps on Vision Pro. There is no Disney Plus app on Quest, but they do have it through the browser. So this is Amazon being the first to do this on Quest. Meta hopes that other people will. Like, a lot of people ask Meta for this, and even I've done this in the past and be like, Meta, you need to get this. The reality is here, this isn't Meta's decision. This is Amazon's decision, and any future decisions are Netflix's decision or Disney's decision. So if you want this to happen, if you want a Disney Plus app with downloads on Quest, go and ask Disney. Don't ask Meta. And if you want a Netflix one, go and ask Netflix. Do the customer feedback forms or whatever on these platforms and say, I want an app on my Quest. And if enough people do that, one day they'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, go knock on the door of the House of Mouse and tell them that that's what you want. But 3D, I think the 3D, I think one of the challenges right now with the 3D is that those files are so large. I mean, you literally, every frame needs to be twice the size. And so I think there's compression, voodoo that still needs to be done to get 3D video on these streaming services to the point where they're, plus, if all of a sudden they've got a user base for this app that is ridiculously high, they're going to see value in getting that 3D content to drive more subscribers. It's just a matter of time. Give it a year or two and you'll see 3D content on Amazon, Netflix, downloads for all of it. It'll be great. And then you'll really wish that does the Quest 3 or the Quest 3S offer any type of OTG support for external storage through the USB-C port?
So that was planned at one point, but it turns out that these cards actually use so much power that it's not really worth the power draw. So no, you cannot expand the storage like that. It may be possible to use the more advanced ones that kind of act like their own little NASs, but ones that are just like raw, cheap storage do not work in my testing. Perhaps there are some models that do, but none of the ones I've ever tried do work. So this is great to see. We actually saw a lot of feedback on this article, as I know people going like, heck yeah, like we saw this. I kind of thought that it might be the case, but there were a lot of people waiting for this. How would economists say? There was a lot of pent up demand for this feature on Quest. And yeah, I think there are going to be people out there who are like Quest enthusiasts who go and subscribe to Amazon Prime just because Amazon have done this, right? Where they go, look, this is what I wanted. You're the platform that's done it. I'm going to give you my money for this. In the same way that I'll be real with you. I subscribe to Disney Plus because they have a Vision Pro app. I wasn't going to, that they've provided enough value and shown that they care about something that I'm interested in, that I'm going to support them in that way, because Disney Plus has 3D movies. And I hope Disney Plus comes to Quest as well. Are we ready to talk about the new Meta avatars?
Okay, I guess. I'm so excited. As a person, some of you may have followed my journey, some of you may have not. I've been on a weight loss journey to the point where I am now medium Kyle instead of big Kyle. I want my avatar to accurately represent just like me in real life. All my clothes, I have to get new clothes because things don't fit. I kind of feel this need for a change for this avatar. I mean, I'm wearing a suit just to make Ian mad, just to troll Ian. But honestly, I would like my avatar to be a better representation of me. So I'm really excited that they finally released the Kodak avatars. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. These aren't the Kodak avatars. What are these things, David?
They are not the Kodak avatars, no. They are the next generation of Meta avatars. So we are using the current generation right here. This is an interesting comparison point where you're seeing the current ones and then the future ones here. And that future is not very far off. They release next week. Meta didn't really make clear by what they meant by release. Does that mean it's only going to be in Horizon Worlds and Horizon Home for now, or will developers get the SDK? We don't know. We'll find out next week. If developers do get an SDK, if whenever I find time, I'll add them to the studio. I very rarely get time to work on this app, unfortunately, for obvious reasons that, we have a job to do. We have to get the news out to you. You'll notice that yesterday I wrote 16 articles, for example. And we've been getting, things back online, like the new website over the past 2 years. Recently, we've got our newsletter back online. So the point there is no promises, but I'll try to get this into the studio when we can. And hopefully we see other apps like Golf Plus and 11 Table Tennis that use these avatars upgrade to the newest version. And they support full body tracking, or should I say upper body tracking plus AI-generated legs. They will allow you to generate your outfit with a prompt using generative AI next year. So next year, you'll be able to go into the avatar editor on your phone or in the headset settings, type in your costume and watch it appear on your avatar, they say. And they're also in Horizon Worlds, but they haven't said if this is going to come elsewhere, introducing something that has been a long requested feature, which is what they call fantastical avatars. So obviously in VR chat, for example, people are very adamant that they don't want to be a human form. They want to be a furry, or they want to be a cat girl, or another humanoid but non-human form. And so in Horizon Worlds, at least, Meta is introducing these as unlockables in certain worlds, but they have not said whether this is going to come to third-party apps. I don't know. If you get this, would you show up in Golf Plus with this? We don't know the details around that yet. For now, we just know that these are the new avatars, or at least this is a render of the new avatars arriving next week.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think a lot of people are. If you want to be an anthropomorphic duck, or if you want to be, this guy, cargo pants, sure, why not? I think everybody should be allowed to do whatever they want. Just recently watched a VR chat documentary, I guess it was, about the beginnings of it and stuff, and I noticed that one of the shots, I'm in that documentary. One of the shots is the shark, just a shark. I was just a floating shark out in space, and I no movement, just I moved, but there was no like animation or anything. I was just a shark, and that was in the documentary. I was happy to see that, because I was an avatar that didn't have arms and legs. I was just a fish, and we're far from doing that here.
Did you have controllers?
I did.
You did, or you didn't?
I did have controllers.
Oh, you did, like as in Razer? How long ago was
the
Razer
Hydra. Yeah. That's what those were called. But my fins weren't moving. Now that would have been fun. But yeah, I like the idea of giving people the opportunity to be whatever they want to be. That's the whole point of VR. In my opinion, it's one of the driving factors. So yeah, let's see. See if these make me feel any more comfortable.
Yeah, we'll have to. This is going to be one of those where we haven't really seen them much in motion driven by VR tracking yet. They've only really shown these renders. We'll talk in a short second as our next topic, actually, about one area where we kind of did see them in motion for a few seconds at most. But that's going to be the test here. As I've said for years, people care too much about what a VR avatar system looks like in screenshots. What matters is, as you're seeing right now, how does it look in motion? How well does it translate the hand tracking and head tracking and microphone input into a believable moving character? A lot of avatar systems look great in a screenshot, but look really awkward and stiff and weird in VR. And a lot of avatar systems, I would argue the one we're using right now, look terrible in a screenshot, but actually look pretty good in motion. And a lot of research around this has actually indicated that what matters most to our subconscious believability when it comes to seeing another person real-time motion track in front of us is in fact the motion, not the appearance. So you will find a high tracking quality, cartoonish, or even just like literally a head as a sphere with some sphere hands, believable. More believable than you would a hyper-realistic avatar that isn't being driven by real human motion. So that's fascinating. And it makes me really wonder, how well did these avatars take the tracking motion and tracking data and translate them into motion? We'll find out next week.
Yeah, we will. David's referring to the uncanny valley. I like to stay in the sort of canny valley myself. I like to stay somewhat canny. I have, as a person who has physically sat this distance from David and have interacted with him in real life, and just because I'm sitting here talking to the quasi Pixar version of him, it does still feel like I'm sitting here talking to him. And I'm sure he, I can't see it because there's no eye tracking on his headset, but he still rolls his eyes at me just like he does in real life when we're together. So it's this is good. This is good. The avatars, it's a representation of you. It's not you. So
that is actually funny you say that, because that is actually some of the research that's been done here, right? Where the researchers represent people in VR as just these like stick characters and have them walk around. And then these are people that the participant has met earlier in real life, and they have to identify who are these people. And when you have really, really high quality tracking, you can identify the person by just how they move, their gait, as people would say. That's remarkable. You can recognize your friend in VR before they even speak, and even if they don't look like your friend, as long as they move like your friend. And the more well you know someone, the more accurately you can identify them. So again, that points to this point that I really, really need to hammer home, because it's so underappreciated. It matters more how an avatar moves than how it looks. Some people do not want to accept that, right? They want photorealism or nothing. And I'm just saying, if you have this photorealistic thing, but it looks like a paper mache character because it's not moving, I would actually take cartoonish avatars that move properly over that. But rant over, we will move on to the next topic, unless there's anything you want to add there.
Nope. Let's do it. Moving on.
So relevant to these avatars, because they're going to be used for this, and this is also one of the only real screenshots we've seen of these avatars, Horizon Worlds is getting AI NPCs that you can talk to. So as well as building multiplayer experiences, Meta hopes that people will build single player, or I guess co-op experiences in Horizon Worlds, because these two people are real in VR, and this person is an AI character. And this is obviously powered by Meta's Llama series of large language models, which recently got multimodal capability. And I really recommend going and watching the video of this on UploadVR.com. Scroll down a bit and you'll see the article with this feature image, and just click on it. The video's right there to play. We don't put ads on our videos, so you can just click it and play it on our website videos I'm talking about. And you can hear this conversation. It's a very short conversation, but it's a very interesting tease, because this is something that Meta says world builders will be able to use. You'll be able to create your own NPC. So choose an appearance in the same way you'd build your own avatar. You build the NPC's appearance, then you give them some background information about your world, and they say they will even have awareness of their environment and be able to converse about their environment, and over time have agentic capability where they're able to actually, walk around the environment. They talked about using, them as bots in shooters, for example. There's a very, very, I think this hints at something much, much wider. This is not the only time we've seen an AI NPC teased. NVIDIA had a demo of this last year, I think. But the key here is that as these large language models and their multimodal capabilities get cheaper and more available, this is going to start becoming available in real games. And right now, Meta is obviously paying the server costs for this, so they're only doing it in Horizon Worlds. But eventually, this is going to trickle down to apps as well, right? Eventually, we're going to see that in apps. And this could enable entirely new genres of video games. Imagine if movies could only have been made around action without any real interactive dialogue between the characters beyond the most basic that didn't require real depth. Imagine what genres of movies and TV shows would not exist. You could imagine that once AI NPCs are available, both in VR and in traditional video games, there will be, for example, murder mystery games where you are actually trying to have conversations with characters and figure out what happened and try and figure out who's lying to you. Not in the LA Noire way of clicking a few options, but in having a free-form voice-to-voice conversation. The possibilities here are absolutely endless in the kinds of genres. I think what we even define as a video game could dramatically change, and you could see something that are more like the holodeck novels of Star Trek, that are interactive, dialogue-driven stories. that also incorporate what we would call traditional gameplay. And we're getting very esoteric here, but I really truly do think that in the far future, the introduction of truly AI NPCs in interactive experiences will be considered a landmark moment for video gaming.
It's funny that you mentioned the HoloLens or the holodeck. Oh, I got HoloLens on the brain. Holodeck is Don, VR Gamer Dude here in the comments is saying, "Hey, can't wait." I mean, big Star Trek fans, right? Big Star Trek fans. We both are. It's going to be exciting to have Moriarty be able to jump out of my headset and kill me someday. But I wonder. And I'm putting my Ian hat on here. Okay. So I'm going to jump into conspiracy theory world. What if Horizon World suddenly triples their volume of people on because they're all AI? Like, what happens when you walk in and everybody's a virtual character, but you don't know, but it looks like, oh man, this place is kicking, but there's a bunch of AIs all talking to each other. That drives me into another thought of, can we engage, have the AIs all talk to each other, have a conversation, or we just sit there and watch? The amount of entertainment that's going to come from a bunch of robots that we can talk to is just, I don't even know where it's going to go. It's going to be so much fun.
I mean, those are all good questions, right? I do think we probably will see a lot of Horizon Worlds. Again, this is coming next year, to be clear. The timeline for this isn't like next week or something. These AI NPCs are next year. And I do think eventually we will start to see Horizon Worlds that are filled with a lot of these NPCs that are at the very least your guides. That's a really interesting question about whether they can talk to each other, because then you can actually start to build these interactive stories where either you or a friend or a group of friends go through them in a world that feels very real, right? And I do think once you do get this, we're talking only about Horizon Worlds in this context, but this is going to be something that comes across the wider industry, as I keep saying. We're going to look back on, I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to the knee, loop 1,000 times. Will seem really weird and primitive and backwards in a few years. If instead, in the Elder Scrolls of the 2030s, you walk through a giant city and hear ambient NPC conversations and go over and start speaking to the shopkeeper or the whatever character you're talking to. I do just, some people, I'm sure, I don't have access to the comments today as a reminder, I'm sure will maybe perhaps think that some of this is too enthusiastic, but I really do think this is going to be dramatic for games. It's not going to happen overnight, but in the 5 to 15 year time frame, this is going to be a game changer in the literal sense of the word. Yeah, no, I look forward to this coming out right after GTA. Cool. So great. I don't know what else needs to be said about that. Yeah, I think we can move on to talk about the next piece of software news here. So Pass-Through API, the bombshell revelation. Quest developers will be able to access the pass-through cameras of Quest headsets with a new API next year. They'll be able to run custom computer vision models. A lot of developers have been asking for this for a long time now. There is a huge possibility here to open up entirely new use cases and make these headsets useful for truly augmented reality, where instead of just placing virtual objects into your room and having only an awareness of the shape of your room, they actually start to augment and give you information about and enhance the physical objects in your room in ways that we can't even imagine yet, as in the kind of capabilities that people would have hoped would arrive in AR glasses eventually may first arrive in mixed reality headsets through this. I don't even, it's almost not worth discussing because there are so many possibilities here, and there are going to be huge use cases of this that we can't even imagine now. This is one of those areas where I think the ingenuity of developers in this industry will once again surprise us. I cracked up when I saw the way the presenter, he was like, all right, we're giving you access. You've been screaming for it. We're giving you access. Now you better build something good with it. And I mean, that was like, talk about a call to action. Like, you're sitting here telling me, man, look at all these wonderful possibilities, but man,
go build it. I want to see it. I want to see it right away. Like, I want to see this be something that, oh, we want access to it, not just because we were told we weren't allowed to, but because we want to use it for something good. I want to see that good happen. I don't want this to be like, oh, we've given you access and here it is a year later and we still don't have anybody using it for anything practical. Like, that's my fear, is that people only wanted access to it because they weren't allowed to have access to it.
That is
Am I being a naysayer?
Thought, I guess. You can't have, right? That is probably a real factor here, but there is so much happening in the field of computer vision right now with the renaissance of machine learning in general, right? And being able to bring along even some of those capabilities that are existing already in the open source space and just bring that into mixed reality headsets. Even if you just bring in what already exists out there, there are already going to be some insane use cases here. And I imagine this is going to bring a new class of developer to mixed reality headsets, right? Computer vision engineers, people who this is their bread and butter. They spend their time hunting through new models on Hugging Face and following all the latest papers. Some of these people are going to have a field day with this. I have no lack of faith in what will be accomplished with this. That said, we don't know about the restrictions here, right? We don't know, like they just said there's going to be a pass-through API. We don't know, do you have to apply for it and agree to some sort of like super legal condition that you get sued by Meta if you start sending pictures of people's houses to China? We don't know any of those details yet. They've just said there's going to be an API.
Yeah. No, I'll time will tell on that one. That's all I got to say about that. I love that the chat is just laser focused on talking about Star Trek, and nothing has ever made me happier. Even though it's not, we've moved on. Move on. Go watch the latest episodes of Discovery or something. I don't know. Okay, what is next? I believe that the 2D Android apps, which is kind of fun. We had this conversation. I think we need to talk about the definition of the word native for some folks to know. I know that the Wordle app came up in conversation during all of this, and you wrote an article about that at some point. But yeah, give us your spiel here. What do we got going on?
Yeah, so you've been able to submit 2D web apps to the Quest store, now the Horizon store, for quite a while. And those are literally just contained shortcuts to the web. But now developers can submit their 2D Android apps, right? They're the Android app that they sell on the Google Play Store for Android phones and tablets. They can now bring it to the Horizon store in the same way that they might bring it to Amazon's Fire Store for Amazon tablets. This is just a new store for them to distribute their apps on. Now, for a lot of apps, they will be dependent on Google Play services, and that is not available on Horizon OS. But Meta says that later this year, they plan to release a 2D version of their Meta platform services that will have some things like authentication and in-app purchases that will make it easier. So already you kind of see Facebook Messenger is available as a 2D Android app. And now with this capability open, we should see more apps come, hopefully. It'll just be about when the market opportunity is big enough. So if you have a 2D Android app that you want in your headset but don't have today, go and email the developer or message the developer or post in their Discord or whatever people do these days and ask them to bring it over to Horizon OS.
So I'm looking at this. I'm watching this on the Connect, announcements. And the very first thing that I thought is, okay, we've gotten rid of App Lab. It's easier to just get on the open store. And now we've got this. Are we going to suddenly see this flood of, dare I say, crapware showing up, flooding the store, a bunch of knockoff games and Candy Crush derivatives? And I know, but is this going to make it tenfold?
I think at least because these are 2D, there probably is. It's a good question. Ironically, it's probably easier for the kind of people who are putting shovelware out to build a quick Unity app than it is to build anything remotely compelling as a 2D Android app, because you're using like Android Studio and some of these less visual tools. I think hopefully at least for the first wave, we start to see useful Android apps that people are missing, right? Because right now, as a spatial computing platform, this is the biggest flaw of Horizon OS. On Apple Vision Pro, I can go to the App Store and open up the access and purchase a good majority of iPad apps that were never meant for Vision Pro, but work perfectly well on a floating 2D screen because they're for iPad. And that can be, everything from Amazon Prime Video to Slack, to Discord, to Trello, to Steam Link, right? The Steam Link app that you use to just play your Steam games on a giant screen on your iPad. You just open that up in Vision Pro, right? You get all these apps by default. Meta, on the other hand, has to convince each and every developer to bring them over. It doesn't have the Google Play Store, but at least now it's trying, right? At least now they allow this to happen. But they're still going to have a huge mountain to climb, right? Because a lot of developers are going to go, I'm not going to do this for the, small audience that are going to actually access this on their Quest. Meta is going to have to try and convince these developers it's worth it. And that's, part of the big sales push with Quest 3S, right? A lot of this is just, how many headsets do you have out there? That's the question the developers will wonder.
I wonder their curation team is probably the least happy team at Meta right now.
I think they're gone. I don't think there is one anymore.
So there's just no curation at all. There's got to be something.
You have to meet technical standards and legal standards. It has to launch and not crash. It has to not run at 3 FPS. It has to not be porn or piracy.
Well, I mean, no. Now wait a minute. Now you mentioned that. Where's the limit drawn? I mean, there are apps that are for mature audiences available, even on the Android store. Are we going to see some of this kind of the lines being, blurred lines on what apps are allowed in? I mean, I don't know.
When you say adult experiences, I don't think there's porn on the Google Play Store or App Store. I think that.
There's a Pornhub app, right?
Really?
Isn't there? I don't know personally. I just assume that there is. I've seen. I don't know. I'm just saying that there's a possibility. Yeah, possibility. Who knows? Maybe it's just a wrapper for their web. I don't know. But I wonder about
comments,
that.
Please tell us if that's
yes. Somebody in the comments admit that that there is an Android Pornhub app. That's brilliant. And then we'll say your name on the stream here live. Yeah. No, I don't know. I worry about this kind of stuff because I see why they did this. They're anticipating when the Google Services API shows up on a Google headset someday, they're going to have a much higher advantage to getting more 2D apps over from the Android store. I get all that. This is they're preempting the need for doing this. But, oh man, I worry about trying to find genuine good content on the App Store in 6 months to a year.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very valid concern. And I think you're also right to say that this is about preempting Google's Android XR. We don't have time to talk about it today, but there was a report this week, I'll just briefly say, that suggested that Samsung is delaying its headset even more. And if you haven't been following this at all, Samsung is going to be the first headset to run Google's spatial OS that they are working on to compete with Horizon OS and Vision OS. But apparently Samsung's delayed it even further. And the big advantage of Android XR, Google's upcoming platform, will be that they have the Google Play Store. So you'll still have that same app store that you have on your Android phone. So Meta is trying to get each of these developers to bring over their app one by one, whereas Google will have the majority of them on day one. And that's obviously what this is about. But yeah, you're right to say that they're going to have the same issues that you have on Steam and on Google Play Store and on App Store. Curation is challenging at this scale, right? At some point, these companies just give up. Meta tried to hold the line as having a console-like curation, but for better or for worse, they're not doing that anymore, right? Some developers hated it. You could argue some users loved it, loved the fact that they knew that everything on the store had gone through a curation team. I've heard from a lot of Quest owners that say they actually hate the change to the Horizon store. They hate that this is now this open store, but that's what it is, that this is what's happened. And you're right to say that there's going to be some serious drawbacks there in terms of shovelware.
You know who I probably think hates it the most? SideQuest.
I guess. I think who probably hates it the most are studios that have developed apps, spent hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on building games and apps, and then have to compete with a knockoff version that's a quarter of the price and 10% of the quality.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be frustrating. But that's what we saw happen to the App Store and iPhone, right? Remember that when the iPhone came out, the apps were all $5, $10, $20. And then over time, there's race to the bottom, brought everything down to free with ads or free with in-app purchases. And this is a wider discussion that I think Ian will probably.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just throwing it out there to let you know that this is being discussed by folks in the industry, the goods and the bads, So, all right. Well, I mean, I guess the next thing to talk about is the spatial SDK, which is interesting. Look forward to hearing your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so this is the last software topic we have before we move on to glasses hardware, and the glasses hardware will be our final topic for today. And I am running out of physical energy at this point. So the spatial SDK is what we have been saying on this show and at UploadVR that Meta has needed for years, and they should have started on 10 years ago. But the phrase, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. So finally, you will be able to build apps for Quest headsets without a game engine. So instead, if you just want to make a basic weather app, it's a silly example, but I'm just using it for an example, you'll no longer need to have an entire game engine running and doing a whole rendering stack and doing your own lighting and interaction and physics and audio just to show the weather. You can now use the same tools you would use to build a Android mobile app. So, your Android Studio, your Kotlin, your whatever UI framework you choose to use, React Native, for example, and then easily place these as 2D panels and then add 3D elements and 360-degree photos, all of these things where the spatial SDK itself will handle rendering and lighting and audio and physics and hand tracking, controller tracking. So this means that when there's an upgrade to something fundamental, like the audio engine gets upgraded or the hand tracking or controllers change, all of that gets abstracted and handled by the system itself. And all of your app gets all of those changes and best practices magically added to it because your app is just providing the kind of content layer, not the engine layer. The engine layer will be kind of built into the system. So this is very similar to what Apple offers on Vision Pro with its shared space that lets you build apps with Reality Composer, Reality Kit, Swift UI, and Swift and ARKit. All of these Apple tools that offer the same pitch, right? That you don't have to use a game engine. You can build apps the same way you'd build iPad apps, except there's a little bit of 3D added. You have like a basic engine editor. Same thing with Meta. They have like a spatial composer, just like Reality Composer, where you can position these 3D objects and elements. So this is really exciting, right? If you are someone who wants to build a basic spatial computing app, not an immersive experience or not a like gaming experience, you can build immersive experience of this. You should probably go and dig into this, especially if you're someone who's like, if you're sitting here in the audience being like, I've built some iPhone apps or Android apps, but I've never touched Unity or Unreal, and I don't want to go with a full heavy game engine. Go play with this now. It's out now. It is available to play with, the Meta Spatial SDK. And I think we will see a larger and larger percentage of apps over time built with this, just as we do on Vision OS. There's so many Vision OS apps that would never have been built if they had to use an entire game engine just to build them.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this. Between this and the Godot, I mean, developers, like they're definitely pulling you guys out and saying, hey, here, tools, go build something. So you can't complain. If you're a developer right now in this space, you got a lot of new fun toys to play with, let me tell you.
Yep. I don't think there's much to say about this until we see what developers do with this. I'm very excited to see the first apps that are made with this. This kind of ties into the thing before, because you can also use this to, instead of making a new app, you can extend your existing 2D app into the spatial world. So in the same way you can do this with iPad apps on Vision Pro, right? If you have an iPad app and say it's a model viewer and you want to bring it to Vision Pro without building a whole new app, you can just bring your iPad app in, make a few tweaks to make it work better with the pinch interaction system, and then extend your model viewer to, instead of showing on that 2D pane, to bring up a 3D model floating in space that the user can reposition, right? That's an ideal example of using Apple's SDKs with your tools you already know and love. Spatial SDK from Meta offers the same pitch, right? If you just want to take your existing Android app and bring a little bit of 3D in there, maybe you just want to have like a 360 photo viewer, you can do all of this without having a whole game engine. It's just a library, a framework that adds on to your existing app if you want. It doesn't have to be a whole new thing. So yeah, this was essential they have it. Shocking that it's taken this long to have it, but it's a thing now.
Okay, so Blair, you may get a comment. Anna Cleric here in the comments. Blair is the developer of Loaf-I and Technolust. If you don't already, if you're not familiar with him, he says there's no incentive to develop. And I, without giving my own comments, what do you think, David? What are the incentives for developers in this space to jump in and build something for this platform?
An incentive to develop is the same. I mean, I guess it's the same incentive of why would you build for any platform, right? Because you have a startup or a business idea, or you have an existing app that you want to bring over, right? Again, I think that's why this is using the existing tools. That's the idea of this, is that you don't need to build a whole app just for Quest. You have an app that you already have out there on Android tablets, and maybe you have it on Fire tablets or phones and iPad, and you bring it over to Horizon OS and you add some extra features. I guess it's a strange question, I guess. The same reason you would develop an app for anything, right? Because you have a business that you want to deliver digitally.
It was more of a statement than a question, but I wanted to address it because I think that is critical. You know, if you have all these developers and you have all these tools, like what draws them to this? So you got to have a user base. You got to have an ability to increase revenue from building things. I guess a younger, scrappy developer is looking to build their portfolio. But, you know, the incentive is not definable, I don't think, for any developer on any platform. I mean, what's your incentive to build for iOS versus Windows versus Android? What is your incentive to build anything at all ever? That's non-definable. I think that's a null. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what developers do with this and what it leads to, right? It is just released literally yesterday, so I don't think we know yet. We will keep a close eye on what percentage of the apps on the store use this versus game engines over time. So you want to talk about glasses now and finish this?
Oh, okay. It's near and dear to my heart because I want to get a pair of the Ray-Ban Meta glasses and I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Let's talk about those. Yeah,
so we'll talk about the Ray-Ban glasses briefly. So there wasn't a new hardware version announced at Connect. This is still the same hardware version as last year, but they have brought new software features and new styles. So we'll not talk about the new styles because this is not a fashion show, but there are new styles if that's what was holding you back. But the software features themselves are really interesting. So one of them is live translation. So from a few languages, you'll be able to, as it sounds, from your glasses, have audio translated back and forth between English to Spanish, English to French, and English to Italian, I believe. There's also reminders. So you can romantic. Say, yeah, the romantic languages indeed. You can say, there's reminders that use the camera to remind you. So say you park in a giant parking lot you've never been to before. You just look at your car within view of the parking slot ID, whatever the hell you call it, number. Say, hey, Meta, remember where I parked, and walk off. And then you come back to the car park and you say, hey, Meta, where did I park? And it says, you parked in bay 556, kaboom. So it's an integration of the AI, the camera, and remind me as a new command that allows it to do useful things for you like that. I guess some of the other use cases would be like, remind me to tell someone about this, or remind me, that this thing is happening at this time. And then you ask it again, what time is this thing happening at? Well, that's pretty cool. video AI. So you've been able to ask Meta AI about things you see for months now in the US and Canada. So, you could look at a sign in a different language and say, hey, Meta, what does that say translated to English? You could say something like, I don't know, like what type of flower is this? What type of tree is that? These basic queries. You'll now be able to have it start watching you continuously. That sounds so creepy. If you ask it to, until you ask it to stop. So you'll be able to have kind of almost like a session with it where it is seeing a live stream of your first person view, and then you can have a conversation with it as you walk through a city, for example. And you can ask it about, oh, what's that over there? And which way do I go now to get over to that next thing? Stuff like that. Spotify, Audible, and Amazon Music are getting real commands now. So just like you can on Alexa and Google Assistant, you can tell it to play songs and playlists and audiobooks and podcasts. That's what I use mine for majority, to be honest, is just listen to audiobooks and podcasts. It's great to have something that doesn't touch my ears, that I can walk around, go on a walk in the park and do an audiobook. So cool to be able to control that.
How controlled is the audio? Is it loud enough that someone sitting next to you on a bus can hear what you're listening to?
At full volume, they'll hear you. At half volume, they won't unless they're right beside you.
Wow.
Beside you.
Okay, that's even better then. Yeah, no, I want to get a pair of these, and I know there's some other pieces to this, but I tried on a pair of these at a Lens Crafters here in Cincinnati, and yeah, they're big and thick and bulky, and I guess my current glasses that I wear normally, not smart, dumb glasses, I'm going to start calling them, are bigger and thicker, but not this big and thick. And my wife kind of cringed a little bit. Are we going to get these smaller in 2 years and 3 years and 5 years? It's more of a rhetorical question. I don't expect David to have an answer, but I need these to be a little bit smaller for what they're offering, because then we're gonna talk about Orion at some point, and those things are like comically chunky. What do we think here?
Yes is the answer, but I mean, I don't think these things are super chunky, to be honest. Like I never.
It's this side. It's the sides.
I mean, they will obviously get smaller over time.
Yeah.
But there are already people that wear non-smart glasses that have thickness roughly comparable, not at this level of thickness. But
yeah, I guess it's
interesting you say this, because the feedback from most people around this is, I like that it doesn't look stupid. And I guess
I'm still going to get a pair, and I'm still going to sport them everywhere I go. I'm looking forward to being on the front seat of the Beast at the Kings Island amusement park and showing my first person perspective of it. I want a pair so bad. I have FOMO that I don't have a pair. I was watching the Meta Connect thing yesterday, and I saw all these people sitting in the audience wearing them, and I'm like, and I was laughing when Mark Zuckerberg got up on stage. He's like, oh, hey, Meta, and then said something. I'm like, oh, everybody's glasses probably just went off. I don't have confirmation that happened, but kind of think that it would.
Yeah.
What are the other things that are going on here? They were talking about the transitions, which I'll probably end up getting.
Yeah, they have new styles, right? New transition styles. These are some of them right now. I don't think we need to go into the fashion of this. There are more styles than there used to be. That seems to matter for a lot of people. I think when they release new styles, apparently that does actually increase the sales quite a lot. But I mean, according to Meta, they are selling these things as fast as they can make them, and they've been supply constrained. And they claim that this has been like a breakout hit that has been more successful than they ever thought it would be. And EssilorLuxottica have actually indicated that too. EssilorLuxottica being the company that owns Ray-Ban. So obviously these are not AR glasses. They don't have a screen in them, but they do seem to indicate that the general form factor of smart glasses is something that can be a successful product if it's stylish enough. I guess for you, it's not even stylish enough yet, right? The other feature,
it's very close.
The other feature that this is getting software wise is QR code scanning. So you can just say, hey, Meta, scan that QR code and open your phone and it's ready to go the URL or whatever. A lot of this is just the Meta AI improving over time in this. Like I said, the reminders, they say it's going to be more natural now. If you're asking it about something, you don't need to say look at anymore for it to know to use the camera. If you ask something if you say like the word this, like what is this, it knows that it needs to access the camera instead of saying, look and tell me what this is, which is how you had to do it beforehand. These are all just very minor improvements, but they have really been steadily over improving the software on this thing over time. The last major update we reported on is that this can do first person video calling now. So you video call someone on WhatsApp and Messenger and they see your first person perspective, but obviously you don't see them. And we'll talk very soon about how that's different on a different pair of glasses. But I don't think we need to talk about this more. You can read about it on uploadvr.com.
Yep, totally agree.
They're adding software features and making these things more and more useful over time. Pretty much the live translation seems really cool. I mean, if you're on a holiday, for example, you can see a future where you no longer have to, even with these cheap displayless glasses, you don't have to worry about running across something you don't know what it means anymore, right? You see a sign you don't understand. Hey, Meta, what does that say in English? Kaboom. You hear what it says in English. My headset is getting a little bit laggy now.
Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Now I have to look at the stream and see. I'm still on. All right. Well, I'm still on. Yeah. So the next thing we were going to talk about is Orion, which David has all sorts of fun stuff to talk about. But I'm going to riff as long as I can here to see how long it takes for him to come back in, which he will. He'll come back in, and that'll be nice. So, okay, Orion, what can we say about it? You know what? I can probably pull up a picture here. Let's see here. Where? There we go.
I should be back. Okay, I think we're ready to talk about our final topic, a very, very different pair of glasses. You already have it on. Wow.
See? I helped.
I'm not used to Ian. Ian rarely casts images. I'm so not used to this. I'm so confused. Anyway, so if you've been living under an augmented rock, you would not know that at Connect, Meta presented a fully integrated prototype of AR glasses that have some remarkable features. So a 70-degree field of view, a wireless compute puck, and an EMG wristband input device. And so this is not a product. In fact, Meta says that it would cost on the order of $10,000 each to build, but they are building a couple of thousand of them to use as an internal development kit and as a demonstrator for the future. So you can see the form factor here. What's remarkable about these glasses compared to any before is that they have a 70-degree field of view. And in the VR world, that's not impressive. But in the AR world, it actually is. And I will show a quick chart that demonstrates why. So I'm actually, apparently our audience can't see the image on screen right now, but the audience should be able to see this little table here, where you can see that the only other glasses currently available with micro LED projectors that are in thick glasses form factor have a field of view of just 25 degrees. Those Ray Neo X2 glasses that we talked about a few weeks ago. Now, they are sold as a real product for $850, but the 25-degree field of view makes them essentially laughable for augmented reality. They are a joke when it comes to this use case. On this table, you can also see some other AR devices through the years. You see the original HoloLens, discontinued now, but a $3,000 product, had a 35-degree field of view. The Snap Spectacles that were just revealed that are available to developers for $99 a month, they cannot be purchased, but they can be rented for $99 a month, are bulkier than Meta's Orion, visibly bulkier, as you will have seen in our coverage, and yet have a field of view that is much lower, 46 degrees. Now, going into the headset form factor, Microsoft's HoloLens 2 offers 52 degrees. It came out a few years ago, obviously, 2019, at $3,500. And the state-of-the-art in transparent AR optics that is currently available on the market as a real product is Magic Leap 2. It is $3,300, and it does offer the same field of view of Orion, but in a much bulkier form factor that does not at all resemble regular glasses. So I'll just bring up an image of both of these devices so that you can see what we're referring to here once they load. So yeah, we have Magic Leap 2, which has its kind of strapped on compute puck that's not able to fit in the vast majority of pockets, and a kind of goggles form factor that you can see here, but it does achieve the same field of view of Orion. But Orion, these prototype glasses, are achieving this field of view. Apologies, folks, for the delay in these images here, in true glasses form factor. And yeah, that's what's remarkable about these. Hopefully you should be able to see this image now. Yeah, you can see that on screen. So this is what the little wireless compute puck looks like. It can fit in a pocket, unlike the Magic Leap 2 compute puck. And this is the EMG wristband. We've been talking about it for years on this show. Ian is very interested in this, has actually tried this out, if I remember correctly, and has been really monitoring this closely. And when you've seen this on the show before, you'll have noticed it was a giant, bulky prototype, and now it's just a sleek band that almost looks like it's not a piece of technology at all, right? Where the processor and battery and haptic engine are all fitted under here. So this is a three-part system with the glasses, the compute puck, and the EMG wristband that Meta describes as a time machine, the presentation of the future that they eventually want to release as a product. So today, it's a $10,000 prototype. Tomorrow, by tomorrow I mean 2 to 5 years down the line, they hope they can release something similar, but perhaps not as good as a real consumer product. So the split compute architecture here is that the glasses themselves handle the processing of tracking, hand tracking, and eye tracking. Yes, there is onboard eye tracking, while the compute puck does all of the app logic and rendering and then streams it wirelessly to the glasses. And while the Snap spectacles have a 45-minute battery life, Meta says that its Orion glasses have a battery life of about 2 to 3 hours, so similar to what you'd see in a Quest 3. As you can see here, they said that this 70-degree field of view is achieved by the use of silicon carbide lenses, which are incredibly expensive and make up most of the cost. And then it also uses micro LED displays, which, as you may be aware, is a completely new display technology that is not related to LCD or OLED. It's a new display technology to achieve all this in a really slim form factor that's really bright, that can match ambient lighting. For cooling, the chipsets in this dissipate their heat through a magnesium alloy frame that is lightweight and good for heat dissipation. They are running 7 cameras and custom Meta chips in this thing, a custom Meta developed eye tracking system using miniaturized cameras, and of course it has speakers as well as shaped batteries. So the batteries are not just a regular shape, they're actually, just like we saw on Quest Pro, shaped batteries to achieve the form factor they're looking for. When it comes to the EMG wristband, this thing provides haptics, of course, but its main purpose is that it senses the muscle activation in your wrist to be able to detect the movement of your fingers precisely. So this allows you to swipe, click, and scroll through the interface regardless of where the glasses are facing. So you could have your hand down at your side. It could be in complete darkness, pitch black. You could have your hand under a table, occluded from the glasses, and this will still allow you to use your fingers because it's not a camera tracking your fingers. It is literally sensing the muscle activation in your wrist as you control your own fingers. So there's some remarkable hardware here. The only real kind of compromise they've made here is that because micro LED is so hard to manufacture, it's quite low resolution. They talked on stage, you notice, about wanting to make this sharper. This currently has an angular resolution of 13 pixels per degree, which is similar to the original Oculus Rift, though Meta CTO Andrew Bosworth said that some Orion prototypes, a few of them, they've made a couple of thousand of these, and some of them have a 26 pixel per degree micro LED display, which is equivalent to roughly Quest 3. So that's very interesting to see here. Again, I just want to underscore this is not a product, but Meta says that we will see new devices from us in the next few years that build on our R&D efforts with Orion. So Meta says its primary focus now is on figuring out how to build AR glasses affordably and at scale, as well as improving the display quality and making the form factor even smaller.
As a bespectacled individual, there I said it. I'm hopeful because I've been saying since the very, very beginning, about way back in 2014, somebody said, "What's the ultimate goal?" The ultimate goal is for me to wake up in the morning, and the very first thing I do is I take my glasses and I put them on. I have to because I'm completely blind without my glasses. And the moment I can put them on and then do a couple taps and do a couple this, that, and the other and make things happen in my real world, that's the true experience I'm looking for. This thing is far from ready for prime time, but it shows real progress toward that ultimate goal of Mark Zuckerberg giving me exactly what I want, which is a pair of glasses that do everything that I want them to do. And, people have told me, go get your eyes zapped, lasered, and fixed, and you can do whatever you want. No, because the glasses are part of my personality. I enjoy wearing glasses. Yes, there are drawbacks, but there are also advantages as well. I want this and the Meta Ray-Bans to have a couple generations of offspring and ultimately converge into a perfect experience. Waveguides are hard. I'm hoping that, especially once you get past a certain degree, I know Microsoft spent a lot of time with the HoloLens screwing around with that. You can get it bigger, but then it gets distorted to all high hell. So this is probably the best way to go. Resolution is suffering. I mean, obviously, pixel density is critical. There's also brightness. There's also, there's no real blacks. So the whole OLED community versus micro LED, they're going to have all sorts of fun conversations down the road. There's no such thing as black. You can't do black. Black is clear on a holographic display. So I don't know what is going to happen there. I don't know if they're going to do prescription lenses for these someday when they come out for the public. Will they do transitions because all of a sudden now the lenses are darker? Will that change your... I mean, there's all sorts of questions you could ask, and we will get answers to them over time eventually, I'm sure.
So at the start of this show, I described Quest 3S in an optimist perspective and a pessimist perspective, and I think it's useful to describe Orion in the same way, right? Because there are two worldviews that you can present on this. In one way, this thing is a marvel of engineering. This is the result of 10 years and billions, perhaps tens of billions of dollars of research and development from Meta to produce what is, in their view, and I find this a compelling description, the most advanced consumer electronics device ever built. This is, in some ways, pushing the bounds of modern engineering and optical physics to produce something that we've never seen before. There is no other fully functional, not just a single component prototype AR glasses that has this kind of field of view in this kind of form factor. It is simply light years ahead of everything else. But that's expected given the cost, right? It's $10,000 to make. On the other hand, the fact that this is $10,000 to make, and the fact that this is the only AR glasses in glasses form factor that you could argue don't suck, right? This is the only one. The rest of them all have either massive compromises in battery life, massive compromises in field of view, massive compromises in form factor and bulk, or all of the above. So this is the first one that doesn't suck, and it costs $10,000. So some people may look at this, and I think the wrong take here that we've seen throughout social media is, wow, look at this. Apple was wrong to make a Vision Pro. They should have just made glasses. Well, why are people making headsets? Look, you can make glasses. And I think that's the wrong take, because this shows that to make glasses that don't suck, you have to do all of this and come up with something that you can't actually sell as a product. Meanwhile, mixed reality headsets, your Quest headsets, your Vision Pros, soon your Samsung headsets, are going to get a lot better every few years. And as we see on a kind of talk cycle, TikTok cycle, get cheaper as well. That by the time that you can make something like this for $1,000 instead of $10,000, you're going to have Quest 4 and Quest 5 and Quest 6 and Apple Vision Pro 2 and Apple Vision Pro 3 and Apple Vision Air that have dramatically better pass-through and get lighter and slimmer and higher resolution and better in every way, to the point where, as we've been saying on this show, you're going to get amazing mixed reality headsets before you get acceptable glasses. And a lot of people thinking that this means that headsets are the wrong technology path are completely missing the point. It is, from a optical physics and engineering perspective, far, far, far easier to imagine a headset with the form factor that we just showed of Visor having, or even something slimmer, with really high quality pass-through that is so good that it almost feels like a transparent optic, arriving before the end of the decade at around $1,000, before we get glasses that are even just this good in a consumer product.
Look at how far we've come in 10 years, to the point where you've got the Quest 3, 3S, that's our lineup right now of VR headsets, MR headsets, XR, whatever the hell you want to call them. This is a DK1. This is the first time that they're going to get these out for developers to go and play with this technology. But here's a fundamental thing. This is a completely, and this is for the people who are talking about, well, we don't need to have VR headsets because we got this going on. No, they're fundamentally different devices. They go down very different paths to provide that overlay experience. Oh boy, I can already see where you're going with this. This is awesome. Image. Yeah. Oh, I was here. I was there for that. The idea of pass-through versus holographic overlay are two fundamentally different two different answers to the same problem, two different solutions. Now, I believe still very strongly that pass-through will be the way to go. Down the road, ultimately, pass-through will win, which will make Orion, it's Coke versus Pepsi when it gets down to the point where they're both consumer-related products. But I believe that pass-through is the way to go, that will win the race eventually. And so Quest 4, Quest 5, Quest 6, Vision Pro 2, Vision Pro Air, whatever you want to call it, those will, I think, have a bigger impact on this industry as a whole than something like Orion. I think that light, that waveguide technology needs to evolve at least 5 or 10 years before this product is on par with what we're getting from the mixed reality headsets. Don't write that off, but keep in mind, we've already are on a path for good pass-through and AR, and that is with the Quest set and the Vision Pro and things like that. So that's just my hot take on it, but people can disagree with me.
So I think you made the analogy of Orion being somewhat like a DK1. I think sometimes you can't make a direct analogy from one domain to another, and I don't think you can make an analogy like this, because Orion is like a DK2 if DK2 costs $10,000. It's
okay.
They've gotten to that level of like, you've made an AR glasses that are the kind of thing that people have dreamed about, that don't suck, that are an actual glasses, albeit they're thick. Yeah, they're thick, but they're glasses, right? But again, you really cannot underscore that there is no magic path here where this suddenly becomes $500 a year from now. This is going to take a long time. In fact, we've seen the same reporting from sources like The Verge and The Information that described Orion down to its name in detail for years now, has said that the AR glasses product that Meta plans to release in 2027, 3 years from now, will be inferior to Orion. So we're going to, firstly, before it gets better, it's going to get worse and cheaper. So if you imagine that that's happening in 2027, it's going to be years before we get even Orion in a product. And we may be repeating ourselves here, but I just cannot be more clear that meanwhile, pass-through is going to get better than you can believe. Pass-through is going to get, the pass-through that we have in Quest 3 family and Apple Vision Pro is the first generation of consumer viable pass-through. Yeah, Quest Pro and Pico 4 had it first, but nobody bought those, right? They don't matter in a real sense. And in terms of like things that people actually bought, Quest 3 and Vision Pro are the first. Each of these companies are working on a completely next generation pass-through system for the next Vision Pro, for the next Quest 4, that tries to make that view of the real world dramatically better across the whole stack. And That's going to happen before we even get consumer AR glasses that are worse than Orion. So I don't think these are going to be actually competing though in the long term, right? Even when you do get good AR glasses, as this image that we love to show on this show is probably part of the UploadVR drinking game. When I cast this image, I'm sure um, it does just highlight that when you want to walk around in the real world, you don't bring your laptop and carry it in your hand. Some people do, but you carry your phone in your pocket, right? But when you get home and you want to bring up your video editing tool, or even if you just want to watch some YouTube videos on a big screen, i.e., you want a more immersive experience, you bring out your laptop, your PC, your tablet, your TV, right? Devices that offer a higher quality, more immersive experience than your pocket computer. That's going to be a very similar path with AR glasses and mixed reality headsets, right? You pick your glasses up at the start of the day, you go outside and you take your bus or your train or you drive and you go about your day, and then you come home and you put your glasses down in the dock and you sit down and put your mixed reality headset on, and you get a dramatically better experience that is able to leverage much more computing power because it doesn't have to be in the stem of glasses. Yes, they offload it obviously to a computing puck, but you still have to do things like tracking and local stuff with the sensors. There, you have a optical system that can be over a wider area, and you can leverage even more powerful compute, like your games console, your PC, your cloud streaming from your. We're talking years down the line, right? Everyone's going to have gigabit internet connections, likely even in the 2030s, right? So all of this will be available at home, indoors, and then when you go outdoors, you'll use this in a similar kind of analogy. And maybe we'll get a convergence device eventually. Maybe a lot of people will use one, but it seems like for the foreseeable future, the engineering constraints are so different here that maybe we're preaching to the choir. But the people who see Orion and think that it means that Apple Vision Pro was the wrong move fundamentally misunderstand what's happening here.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. I think they're two solutions to the same problem, and I think that they can both coexist for a little while. But I do agree with you that there will be a convergence. There's a lot of pun involved with that. But yeah, I think there will be a convergence where you will have one device to rule them all that will be able to do that. Yes,
but
someday.
No time soon.
Maybe in our lifetimes, hopefully. In our lifetime.
In the 2040s, but we don't have to worry about that quite yet. But yeah, I mean, the other thing I guess we haven't really talked about is just the use cases of Orion, the current software. It's obviously just a prototype, but they do have a full operating system on this thing here. They have a meta AI that can actually not only see what you're seeing as on the Ray-Ban glasses, but actually add overlays to what you're seeing. So it can label things. You could show it a bunch of ingredients and it'll point arrows towards which thing in the kitchen you put that in step by step, things like that. They obviously have virtual screens. You can bring up your triple monitor setup. You're doing the dishes and you want a YouTube video to follow you around, things like that. You want to just have the same kind of basic spatial computing as you get on a Quest or Vision Pro, but in 100-gram glasses instead of a headset, as well as obviously AR games. So games that augment your space. I think they showed like a weird what was it, spatial Pong, where you're kind of yeah. And there's obviously other use cases. Their eventual core use case they want to achieve is co-presence, telepresence. They want to be able to have codec avatars in glasses so that you're sitting at your table and across from you is your friend on the other side of the planet, and it's all that co-presence we talked about earlier, but done through glasses where you don't have to have a pass-through headset on at all. So yeah, very, very early stuff. I think, just to add a little bit of cynicism here, I think probably the main reason Meta showed this off is to allay the concerns of investors of what the F word have you been spending $50 billion in the past 10 years on? Can you actually show us something instead of constantly yapping? And they say, here we go. Here's a thing that we could maybe make someday. And look, it works. It's a thing. It's actually not on paper. It's a thing. I think that's probably going to be a lot of this. Note that some of the people they were showing were kind of just like celebrities in the industry. NVIDIA CEO was one of the person that was shown this prototype. I think a lot of this is PR, but it's also, in a more practical perspective, a development kit for internal. They're going to be building the apps that they think consumer AR glasses will need. using Orion as the development kit and the operating system.
Since we're being cynical, so Ian went all the way out to Connect and got only a hardware demo of Orion. Sound familiar? He didn't get a chance to actually don the glasses himself and give us his 2 cents on it.
Yeah, that's wild. So
I mean, what?
Yeah, if you're a decision maker in Meta watching this at any point, or a decision maker in Meta, what on earth is that about? Ian was one of the first people to put Apple Vision Pro on, one of the first people to put Snap spectacles on. He was one of the first people to put Quest Pro on in a small group meeting where he met Zuckerberg and Abrash and Bosworth at the time. And I know for a fact that we are read by a huge percentage of Reality Labs. Read and watch UploadVR. Shout out to anyone from Reality Labs watching right now, because I've been told multiple times by people internally. So why on earth would you not let UploadVR's reporter try Orion at the time? That's just bizarre.
Let's do this. Meta, if you want to correct this, I am willing, because I know right where it is. My kid used to play soccer right across the street from the building where Reality Labs is. I will come out to Reality Labs and I will knock on the door and you can let me in and just give it a try. Somebody on the team has got to at least get their head in this so that way we can talk about it intelligently, objectively, critically, whatever. Just let us give it a shot. I'm very upset about that. So, make that happen, please. We have put a lot of headsets on our heads over the years. I own every headset that was in that graphic that you made and that David put up on the screen here earlier. I feel like, why would they not let us? They let all these other people do it. I just don't get it. I just don't understand. Well, anyway, yeah.
There's my battery ringing as I changed to a different battery. Yeah, that's a perplexing one, but let's not
let's not dwell on that. I'm sure Meta will fix it. I'm sure they'll fix it in post. Well, geez, David, I swear that this was 6 hours that we were in here. I have no concept of time or space at this point. I am just out in I have no idea where we are. As usual, just super engaging conversation here from our wonderful audience. And we do this because you keep coming back week after week to hear David's amazing assessments of, the industry from his perspective, Ian's perspective from Walkabout, from his perspective, and in mine occasionally when Ian is unavailable. And, love me or hate me, here I am today to do this. So I want to continue to encourage you to check out uploadvr.com for all the latest news, reviews, comments, and interviews. You can subscribe to the site and for free and leave comments and engage with the community. We encourage you to do so. Or if you want to spend $4 a month, you can have an ad-free experience with UploadVR, or you can just look at the ads. Either way, we don't care. We're just offering that to you as an option. Or you could even be a what are we calling them?
Patron.
A patron. You could be a patron and really truly help support us for $30 a month. That is an option as well. Some of you have chosen to do that, and we really appreciate you. You're all awesome. And so go subscribe, like, and hit the bell and blah, 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 those things that the YouTubers say. I don't know, David, anything else that you want to add here? It's been a good show.
Thanks everyone for watching again. Apologies I don't have the comments up. If there's any final comments that you want to read there, any kind of questions about Orion or comments that you want to read or anything in general, please do.
Just a lot of people saying things that we've said and a couple inappropriate things, which I also appreciate reading, even though I won't repeat.
Inappropriate on this show?
No, not at all. Not at all. All right, David. I think that we are good. For more coverage, go to uploadvr.com. Check out the show every week on Thursday at some point whenever everybody gets their stuff together. All right. That's enough for us. Thank you, folks. We will see you in the future.
Thanks so much, everyone. I'm going to go sleep now.
Yes, get some rest. Good job, David. Good job this week. And to the rest of the team, too. Good job.
See you all next week.